Chapter 634. The tremors on the ground were getting more and more severe, and there were more and more martial artists in the sky. However, none of them dared to get close to the center of the mountain range. Instead, they formed a huge circle and stared excitedly at the center of the mountain range. At the same time, their divine powers surged as they were secretly on guard against the nearby martial artists. So many formidable martial artists. Their auras are so terrifying. There are probably many god-large formidable martial artists. What's more, the divine aura of the Phoenix Dawn Mountain Range is already terrifyingly dense. Everyone hurriedly gathered around Li Bai as they widened their eyes and stared at the increasing number of martial artists in midair. They were all shocked. There were indeed many god bandits in the Phoenix Glow Mountain Range. Putting everything else aside, just the number of martial artists standing in midair alone was already more than 100,000. In addition, there were even more martial artists hidden in the shadows. Is there anyone among you who wants to snatch the fruits? If there is, you can leave now. If you don't leave, don't participate in the snatching later. Otherwise, if anyone dares to take action, I will be the first to kill him. Li Bai's expression became slightly serious as he scanned the crowd. The cold light in his eyes made no one dare to doubt his words. Originally, there were still some martial artists dreaming of a chance to interfere. Now no one dared to have such a thought. After all, without Li Bai's protection, even if so many formidable martial artists managed to snatch the fruits, they wouldn't be able to keep their lives. All right, remember my words. Everyone, follow me now. Let's find a cave and hide from the first round of killing. Later on, everyone must listen to my orders. If you don't blame me for being impolite. Li Bai said coldly once again as he took the lead and started to run forward quietly. Everyone exchanged a look as they felt the seriousness of the situation. However, in their hearts, they were extremely puzzled. Would these god bandits all go crazy later on? Kill everyone on sight? Swish! Abruptly, the ground shook violently as countless seven-colored light shadows shot out from the center of the mountain range in all directions. Their speed was frightening. Countless martial artists were sent flying by these light shadows. Some were even pierced through. A portion of these light figures were directly grabbed by powerful cultivators, while the rest of them entered the dense forest of the Phoenix Cloud Mountain Range. Wow, there are actually so many strange fruits this time. Snatch them. I did not snatch the strange fruits. Why are you all chasing after me? Who dares to stop me? This spirit fruit is mine. Kill. In just an instant, countless martial artists pounced towards the ground. Once a martial artist snatched the exotic fruit, he would be besieged by countless martial artists. In an instant, the martial artists in the sky who had snatched the exotic fruit were besieged by countless martial artists. For a moment, there were sounds of killing and explosions from the collision of divine powers everywhere. The entire Phoenix Cloud Mountain Range was in a riot. Ah, there's a fruit up ahead. A rainbow-colored silhouette happened to fly not far in front of them. With such a fast speed, the silhouette directly sank into the soil, but there was still a faint rainbow-colored light leaking out. The moment everyone saw this, their eyes started burning up. Li Bai had said that the mutant fruits here had unique miraculous uses. Every single one of them was worth at least 10 million god stones and above. If it was a precious mutant fruit, it might even be able to be auctioned off for tens of billions of god stones. Of course, even though everyone's eyes were burning with desire, no one dared to move. Because Li Bai didn't even take a look at that strange fruit and directly turned and walked towards the other side. Everyone could only blink their eyes embarrassedly and quickly followed him. Whoosh! Suddenly, a black silhouette popped out and grabbed the mutant fruit on the ground. After that, it charged straight for Yi Qinghan and the rest. Get lost! Li Bai swept a glance at this martial artist, but his eyes swept behind him. His expression suddenly became incomparably enraged. His hand spat out an incomparably domineering blue stream of air, shooting towards that martial artist like lightning. But that martial artist's expression turned aghast the moment he saw it. The figure that was charging over instantly started to turn illusory, and then actually started rolling on the ground. In the end, he was still swept by the aftershock of Li Bai's attack and was sent flying. But the moment this martial artist was sent flying, he climbed up right away and started fleeing towards the distance. Everyone, we didn't obtain the mutant fruit. If you dare to attack, we won't be courteous anymore. But Li Bai did not bother about that martial artist who escaped. Instead, his aura surged as he shouted towards the front. Everyone was rather baffled. But when their divine senses detected that a group of martial artists suddenly appeared in front, and their faces were filled with killing intent as they rushed towards their side, only then did they instantly startle awake. Especially when they saw that there was actually a martial artist with an aura similar to Li Bai in the front of the team. All of their complexions turned incomparably pale. There is a cave 3,000 meters to the right. You all go in immediately and wait for me inside. Li Bai saw that the other party did not believe his words at all and still rushed over here. He sighed bitterly and transmitted a message to everyone. Then one of them shot forward, and a huge long axe appeared in his hand out of thin air. He rushed towards the other party without any cowardice. Go! Yi Qinghan gave a low shout and secretly complained. Li Bai was not by his side, and Wandering War God could make a move against him at any time. But at this moment, they had no choice but to leave. Otherwise, in a battle of this level, if they and the others were casually affected, then it would be game over. Go! Wandering War God also gave a low shout to the martial artist beside him. In this kind of situation, even he did not have the slightest confidence in escaping unscathed. Of course, he could not care about completing Lu Chun's task. He first had to protect his life. More than 40 martial artists' speed soared to the limit, and they rushed towards the entrance that Li Bai had mentioned. At the same time, their divine senses swept in that direction, and after running for a moment, they easily locked on to that cave entrance. Without any hesitation, they directly rushed inside. Because Sealed God Valley had spat out the spirit fruit, it had already turned into a big, chaotic battle. If they stayed outside, they would only fall into an endless chaotic battle. Why didn't this Li Bai bring us back into the pangolin armor? *CK. Playing like this will kill us. As Yi Qinghan ran, he secretly transmitted a message to the empty Guyang. The three of them stayed close to each other, guarding each other against the martial artists around them. At this moment, he could not care about his bet with Li Shui. In such a chaotic situation, survival was the first priority. The group of people entered the cave, but did not dare to run around. They only went in for a few dozen meters before stopping. Li Bai had said that many of the passages inside were dead ends. In this kind of situation, who would dare to run around? After everyone hid inside, their divine powers were still surging, and their divine senses kept sweeping around, probing the situation outside and inside the passage. At the same time, they were also on guard against their own people's sneak attacks. Xiaohe, come out! Yi Qinghan secretly summoned Xiaohe and let him hide in his sleeve. As long as the wandering god of war dared to attack, Yi Qinghan could only let Xiaohe block the attack and activate the ancient necklace on his neck. Even if he used the Slaughter God Blade, he was not confident that he could protect himself against the God King martial artist. Previously, in the baleful Yin stream, Qin Yao was a peak god general, but because the distance was too far and his reaction was fast, he managed to escape. If Qin Yao was lucky enough to escape, this wandering god king would most likely be able to escape as well. It was not important that he managed to escape. What was important was that there were so many god emperors outside, and they would definitely sense the aura of the Slaughter God Blade. At that time, it would be troublesome. Lord Devour was so strong, and she was famous in the divine world for killing people. The item she left for Xiaohe was so powerful, and it was definitely not an ordinary item. Activating this necklace would not only kill the wandering god of war, but it could also scare the experts nearby. Chapter 635. However, it was clear that Wandering War God didn't want to make a move at this moment. He just stood there quietly with a group of martial artists, watching the situation around. Of course, he didn't dare to make a move. After all, Li Bai could come in at any time. Yi Qinghan and Li Bai had a close relationship. He didn't want to court death. As expected, not long after, Li Bai rushed in. His figure was elegant and his face was calm. He didn't seem to be injured at all. He swept his eyes across the crowd and waved his hand lightly, indicating for everyone to follow him. Then he rushed into the passage and sighed. "Senior Li, why don't we return to the pangolin armor and leave this place?" Yi Qinghan's heart calmed down. He followed Li Bai and rushed forward. At the same time, he transmitted a message to Li Bai and asked in confusion. "First, it's too chaotic outside. If you run around outside, even I don't have the confidence to protect you. Second, the pangolin armor is thousands of miles underground. The jade talisman controlling the pangolin armor is in the hands of young Mississippi. If we want to go back, we can only find young Miss first. Young Miss must have entered the cave under the protection of Li He and Li Bai. We're going to meet up with them now." As Li Bai sprinted, he took out a translucent jade talisman and glanced at it, then directly dashed towards a passageway on the left of the fork in the road ahead. After that, he transmitted his voice over to answer Yi Qinghan's doubts. As for the others, he couldn't be bothered to be long-winded. "So it's like this. Senior Li, if we rush like this, won't we walk into a dead end?" Yi Qinghan reminded him with some worry when he saw that Li Bai had passed by a few forks in the road. He didn't even give it a second thought before directly choosing a path and running madly. Seal God Valley has just erupted. At this time, the suction force is the strongest. Moreover, it will be continuous. It won't be like usual where it will suddenly come and catch you off guard. These 2 days, the suction force is too strong. You can feel it from far away. So, as long as you feel the suction force, retreat immediately. It will definitely be fine. Li Bai clearly had a detailed understanding of Seal God Valley. After explaining to Yi Qinghan, he didn't say anything else and started running. Half an hour later, Li Bai, who was sprinting, suddenly stopped in his tracks. As he stopped too abruptly, he almost collided with the few war gods behind him. Looking at Li Bai's gloomy expression, everyone knew that there were definitely martial artists rushing over. Moreover, from the looks of the situation, there should be at least a god emperor expert. Otherwise, Li Bai's expression wouldn't be so bad. "You guys run back and leave a sign for me at the fork. I'll hold them off first." 2 god emperors. Damn it, what bad luck. Li Bai growled at everyone as his god power surged out violently as he charged forward. When everyone heard this, they were so frightened that they started to run back the way they came. 2 god emperors. Even if Li Bai was able to hold on, he probably wouldn't be able to win. Then, if one of the god emperors were to catch up to him, he would be dead meat. Run, run, run! Everyone was like a bull in heat, running wildly toward the back. When they encountered a fork in the road, the wandering god of war, who was running at the front, would stop and use his weapon to quickly draw the shape of a mountain god's armor on the road. Then he would continue to run wildly for half an hour before he stopped. After running so far, it should be fine, right? Since Li Bai wasn't around, the wandering god of war became the leader of everyone. He waved his hand and asked everyone to stop. After walking for so long, they had already passed through countless forks. Even if the 2 god emperors wanted to chase after them, they would probably lose them, right? Damn it. Do these god emperors have nothing better to do? Why didn't they go up to snatch the spirit fruits? Why did they run to the underground cave? Kong Luo looked at Yi Qinghan worriedly and cursed in a low voice. Everyone didn't dare to continue running. Just now, they were in a moment of desperation and escaping was more important. But now, they didn't dare to run recklessly. If they walked into a dead end and got sucked in a sealed God Valley, they would be finished. Damn it, run! Suddenly, the wandering god of war's body suddenly tensed up as he looked behind him in fear. Then, he let out a loud roar and ignored everyone as he ran forward crazily. Everyone was stunned. Then, they felt countless domineering auras coming from behind them. They were all shocked. These auras were obviously at the God King realm. In this godforsaken place, the passages were narrow and there was killing everywhere. Once they encountered them, there would be no reasoning. They would just kill them directly. Dodge *T. Yi Qinghan felt bitter in his heart. If he knew that this godforsaken place would be in chaos, he definitely wouldn't have arranged a dog**T competition with Li Shui. Out of everyone in the team, he was the one with the lowest cultivation level. Even if he had realized the formless wind and his speed had increased by several times, he was still the slowest in the team. At this moment, everyone was running for their lives. Who would care about him? Hence, Yi Qinghan gradually started to hang at the back. And the outcome of hanging at the back was that once the god bandits caught up to him, he would be the first to die. The group didn't hesitate at all and didn't continue to leave any signs at the forks. At this moment, who would dare to stay? What should I do? What should I do? Yi Qinghan's divine senses detected that the auras behind him were getting closer and closer. They were at most a few hundred meters away. His flexible sword was already in his hand, and he asked Xiaohe to be ready at any time. If he really had no choice, he could only let Xiaohe hold on for now. If he still couldn't hold on, he could only use the Slaughter God Blade to fight for his life. As for the Carefree Pavilion, he didn't dare to use it here. After all, who knew if there were God Thearchs or God Kings nearby? Who knew if they had the ability to seal the Carefree Pavilion spatial door? If they had the ability, not only would he be finished, even the Fire Dragon continent would have to suffer. It was a known fact that the Carefree Pavilion still had a spatial door that was connected to the Yi family castle's Cold Heart Pavilion. Damn it, I'm going all out. Xiaohe, get ready. As they turned into another fork in the road, Yi Qinghan could clearly sense the god bandits who were chasing after them. He could also clearly sense the murderous intent in the pair of cold eyes hidden behind the veil. Swish! However, just as Yi Qinghan was about to make a move, that person stopped at the fork. The god kings and god generals who were chasing after them also stopped at the fork. Seeing that they were just a short distance away from catching up, they actually stopped. Boss, why aren't you chasing anymore? This group of people were all dressed in black armor and had masks over their faces. It was obvious that they were a group of secret bandits. Looking at the god king leading the group, Jiang, he couldn't help but ask curiously, "Are you blind? Can't you see the hidden markings on this path? If you want to chase, go ahead. This is a dead end. Once we start fighting inside, the suction force will increase by a few times. By then, we will all be finished." The God King leading the group slapped the God King and cursed angrily. After that, a vicious look appeared in his eyes as he said to one of the God Kings beside him, "Damn it, we worked for nothing. Third brother, continue to chase for another 300 meters and then retreat. Remember not to chase too far. Send this group of people into the Seal God Valley to reunite with Battle God Lei Jun." All right. One of the black-armored formidable martial artists laughed sinisterly as he rushed towards the fork. Chapter 636. Yi Qinghan and the others were puzzled as to why this group of people did not continue to chase after them. Then, they felt a tyrannical aura rushing towards them from behind. They hurriedly increased their speed and continued to run forward. Kong Luo, Guyang, stop. After running for 500 or 600 meters, Yi Qinghan felt that something was wrong. A faint suction force came from the front of the passageway, causing everyone to move even faster. Yi Qinghan thought of Li Bai's words and immediately became alert. He stopped in his tracks and immediately transmitted his voice to Kong Luo and Guyang. "What's wrong?" Kong Luo was the first to stop. As soon as he asked, he felt that something was wrong. It seemed that his body was moving forward slowly. He was shocked and began to run back desperately. Guyang also reacted instantly and began to run back. It was not until he ran to Yi Qinghan's position that the suction was not so strong and he could stabilize his body. "Stop!" 100 meters in front of the passage, Wandering War God's divine sense was locked behind him. At this moment, he saw Yi Qinghan and the others suddenly stop. He finally realized that something was wrong. He quickly stopped and took out a long sword to stab the wall. Then he stomped on the wall and turned back the way he came. "Save me, brother Wandering, save me. I don't want to die, help." The Wandering War God's shout surprised everyone. However, there were still 7 or 8 cultivators who did not stop in time. Their reactions were too slow, and they continued to run forward. By the time they came to their senses, when they came to their senses, they found that the suction was very strong. They desperately wanted to run back, but they still could not resist the suction from the hole in front of them. His body kept moving forward, and his speed was getting faster and faster. After a short while, he disappeared in the passage in front of him. This is a dead end. Everyone looked at the dark hole in front of them and could not help but be shocked. Fortunately, Yi Qinghan stopped in time, and Wandering War God shouted in time. If he had been a few seconds later, no one would have escaped and all of them would have been sucked in. Lord Wandering War God, what should we do now? Everyone's head started to hurt. The road ahead was a dead end. If they turned back, they would not know if the God bandits were still hiding behind them. At that moment, they were in a dilemma. The Wandering War God glanced coldly at Yi Qinghan, his eyes filled with blame and anger. He was very clear that this information was definitely told to him by Li Bai, but he didn't tell everyone. If he hadn't reacted quickly, he would have been sucked in. With a sweep of his divine sense, the Wandering War God discovered that the God King's aura behind him had already disappeared. His eyes flickered as he said indifferently, "Wait, we'll wait here." Everyone's expressions turned bitter. Now that this group of God bandits had caused a ruckus, even if Li Bai managed to break out of the encirclement, he would not be able to find them by following their markings. Now, he could only bitterly wait here for a few days. Wait for this crazy massacre to slowly calm down and stabilize. Only then would he dare to slowly think of a way to walk out and search for Li Bai and the others. Boom! Everyone retreated another 100 meters. When they felt that there was no longer any suction force on their bodies, they then sat down cross-legged quietly. Of course, they also started to use their divine senses to scan the surroundings. 1 hour later, the ground started to shake slightly again, and the passageway started to shake nonstop. As the ground shook, the passageway in front of them actually started to spit out a thick divine aura, causing everyone to be astonished. Mutated fruits. 2 mutated fruits are spat out. A martial artist suddenly shouted. Actually, there was no need for him to shout. The dozens of martial artists present all realized that the 2 rays of 7-colored light had spat out from the passageway in front of them. The passageway was originally dim. How could the 2 rays of 7-colored light not attract everyone's attention? However, no one dared to move. The 2 rays of light had directly entered the walls of the passageway, and that wall was not a safe distance. A few martial artists had been sucked in there just now. Although these 2 mutated fruits looked like they could be obtained easily and could be obtained as long as they went over, no one dared to gamble with their lives. Damn, these are mutated fruits. Maybe they are rare mutated fruits that can be sold for tens of billions of divine stones. A martial artist secretly swallowed a mouthful of saliva. His eyes were fiery as he looked at the wall that was emitting a faint 7-colored light. As soon as his words fell, everyone's eyes lit up even more, but no one dared to make a move. The danger was one thing, but the most important thing was that even if he got it, would the martial artist present let him leave safely? Yi Qinghan's eyes did not look at the mutated fruits that were shining with a charming light. Instead, he kept his head slightly lowered, letting his figure hide in the darkness in the corner. At the same time, Kong Luo and Gu Yong also sat quietly beside him, keeping a low profile. It was not that the 3 of them did not think of escaping, but they were afraid that the Wandering War God and the others would immediately make a move. At this moment, they did not make a move. Of course, the 3 of them did not dare to do anything to provoke them. Oh no! Yi Qinghan's divine senses were just quietly locking on the Wandering War God and the others. At this moment, he felt that the Wandering War God's lips were slightly moving. He began to feel anxious. After transmitting a few words to Kong Luo and Gu Yong, the 3 of them began to quietly move out of the passage, preparing to escape. Xiao! However, the Wandering War God and the others had obviously locked on them with their divine senses. As soon as they moved, the passage behind them was immediately blocked by 7 or 8 martial artists. Moreover, all of them were surging with divine power, and the weapons in their hands were emitting waves of qi. They stared at the 3 of them maliciously. Hanyi, where do you want to go? The wandering war god stood up quietly and looked coldly at Yi Qinghan. His pair of eyes emitted a dark red light in the dim passage. "We want to leave." "Why? Can't we, wandering war god?" Yi Qinghan stopped and did not hide. Instead, he stood up and shouted in a deep voice. The wandering war god smiled and said, "Everyone came together, so it's better to leave together. Do you have any plans to leave alone?" "Huh, what plans can we have? I'm afraid that the wandering war god wants to take these 2 fruits for himself and is afraid that we will leak the news." "Why, do you want to silence us?" Yi Qinghan glanced at the nervous martial artist nearby and made up his mind. There were only 23 people with the wandering war god, and there were more than 40 people in the field. They only had half of the number. If they instigated the martial artists to fight, they might have a chance to escape. Sure enough, as soon as Yi Qinghan said this, the martial artists in the field became even more nervous. They stood up one after another and began to secretly circulate their divine power. They were secretly on guard. Even some of the war gods sent by He Lu Chun began to feel nervous. This fruit was too valuable, and the wandering war god was the only divine king in the field. It was hard to guarantee that he had the idea of taking it for himself. If he wanted to take it for himself and not leak the news, he could only silence them by killing them. The wandering war god laughed and seemed to ignore the flickering eyes of the martial artists around him. He said calmly, "Of course I want the fruit, but I won't take it for myself. Except for the 3 of them, everyone here has a share. If you don't believe me, we can make a divine emperor blood oath together. I will make things difficult for the 3 of you. Hanyi, go and get the 2 fruits for me, and I will let you go. How about it?" Chapter 637. Divine Emperor Blood Oath. The martial artists who were secretly guarding against the wandering god of war heaved a sigh of relief and turned their weapons to Yi Qinghan and the other 2. The Divine Emperor Blood Oath was the highest oath in the divine realm. The Divine Emperor was the supreme god that everyone in the divine realm believed in. It was said that the Divine Emperor was omnipotent and no one dared to go against his will. It was said that a 9th-grade invincible god of war didn't believe it and scolded the Divine Emperor in public. In the end, a bolt of destructive lightning struck down from the sky, blasting the invincible war god into smithereens. From then on, no one dared to make a joke out of the God Emperor supremacy. The God Emperor Blood Oath became the highest oath in the God world. "Damn! Lord Hanyi, what should we do?" Kong Luo's eyes emitted a cold light. It was the cruel light of a lone wolf in a desperate situation. If Yi Qinghan wanted to make a move, he would definitely fight with his life. "Don't be impulsive. When the fight really starts, the 2 of you should find a way to leave first and come back in an hour to protect me." Yi Qinghan tilted his head and sent a telepathic message to Kong Luo and Gu Yang. There were only 2 people he could trust here. After all, both of them were indebted to him. Most importantly, the 3 of them took the war god assessment together. Lu Chun should be suspicious of both of them. This meant that the 3 of them were in the same boat. He turned his head and looked at the 2 strange fruits. Then, he looked at the warriors and said, "These 2 strange fruits are not sure if they are rare or not. If they can only be sold for 20 million divine stones, how much can you get? In other words, even if you get the strange fruits, have you thought about it? Can you make it to the city alive? There are hundreds of thousands of god bandits outside. Without the pangolin armor, how can you escape? Once I die, Senior Li will never let you get the pangolin armor, and the only outcome for you is death. So if you want to live, come with me. I have a way to find Senior Li and the others." "That's right. If Han Yi dies and we can't find the pangolin armor, everyone will die," Kong Luo hurriedly added. Once the situation was chaotic, they would have a chance to escape. "Bullshit." The wandering war god sneered and interrupted Kong Luo's words. "If you had a way to contact them, the old man wouldn't have asked us to leave a sign at the fork. Moreover, there are 2 emperor gods. Who knows if the old man is dead or not? Also, think about it, how long has it been? It hasn't even been a year, there are still 4 years left. Do you still want to continue to enjoy the torture of that perverted woman?" After hearing Wandering War God's words, everyone thought of the perverted torture every 3 days. They couldn't help but shiver. However, someone still asked hesitantly, then, Wandering War God, how do we go back to the city? How do we go back? This is simple. The Wandering War God said confidently. Everyone just needs to wait here for a few months. After this chaos is over, we will sneak out quietly. Every once in a while, there will be people from the Battle God Pavilion coming to the Phoenix Cloud Mountain to carry out a mission. At that time, I just need to report to those lords that we were separated from our sugar daddy during the chaos in the Phoenix Cloud Mountain. They will naturally bring us back to the city. The Wandering War God didn't wait for anyone to reply. He looked at Yi Ching Han viciously again and said, "We have been tortured by that perverted woman for a year. Her subordinates are very strong, and we can't take revenge. This Han Yi battle god has a close relationship with that woman. We can only vent our anger on him. Whoever stands on his side will be my enemy. I will definitely kill him." "Huh? Wanderer, don't be a whore and still want to set up a memorial arch." Yi Ching Han didn't get angry. Instead, he laughed. It seemed that a war was inevitable. Instead of relying on those fence-sitters, it was better to trust the sword in his hand. Since he had made up his mind to fight, Yi Ching Han didn't stand on ceremony. He put away the flexible sword in his hand and grinned at the Wandering War God and the martial artists behind him. "I am very curious. How much did Lu Chun secretly offer you for my head? But have you ever thought about why I'm worth so much money? Some bounties are not so easy to get." Yi Ching Han's words and unscrupulous attitude made the pupils of the Wandering War God and the martial artists arranged by Lu Chun shrink. Indeed, Lu Chun offered a very high bounty, as long as they killed Yi Ching Han and brought his head back. Or, as long as they recorded the scene of killing him with a memory worm, they could immediately receive 10 billion Godstones. 10 billion Godstones was only a part of Lu Chun's wealth. But for the Wandering War God and the others, it was a sky-high price. Hence, these martial artists didn't hesitate and joined the mission readily. Now that Yi Ching Han said this, everyone hesitated and started to think. Since Yi Ching Han could kill Lu Ji and the others, it meant that his strength was far more than what he showed on the surface. What's more, Yi Ching Han had easily killed more than 20 god bandits outside. This made them very wary. Now that they thought about it, they couldn't help but look at Yi Ching Han with a complicated expression. "What are you afraid of? Can he deal with so many of us by himself? I don't believe that he, a first-stage god general martial artist, can kill someone who is a higher cultivation realm than him. Second Master Lu has 10 billion Godstones. Together with these two strange fruits, we can return to Dancing Phoenix City and enjoy ourselves after we finish this mission." Kong Luo and Gu Yang. Do the two of you want to die with him? I will give you one last chance. As long as you work together to deal with Battle God Hanya, everyone can make a divine Emperor blood oath with me and share these Godstones. Wandering God caressed the long spear in his hand. His body was filled with killing intent, but he didn't make a move. Instead, he took 2 steps back. The hand behind him took out a dozen or so memory god bugs and quietly released them. The moment those memory god bugs landed on the ground, they burrowed into the ground and then quietly hid themselves in various parts of the tunnel. We don't want to help anyone. We just want to leave. If Wandering God of War doesn't let us leave, the two of us can only fight with Battle God Hanya. Yi Ching Han had sent a few voice transmissions to Kong Luo and Gu Yang to leave first. Now that Wandering God of War had spoken, Gu Yang's expression changed. He stood up and took the opportunity to leave. "All right, let the two of them leave. Make way." Wandering God of War was a little wary of Yi Ching Han's strange strength. If Kong Luo, who had strong attacks, was added to the mix, it was hard to guarantee that there wouldn't be any problems. "My lord," Kong Luo looked a little anxious. He looked deeply at Yi Ching Han and sent a voice transmission. "Let's go. Come back in 1 hour. If I'm not dead, protect me. If I'm dead, you can meet Li Shuer. Ask him to take care of my woman." Yi Ching Han turned his head and coldly glanced at the two of them. He secretly signaled Kong Luo with his eyes and quickly transmitted his voice to Kong Luo. Then he sneered and said loudly, "When a great calamity is about to befall us, everyone should flee. I don't blame you. Get lost. My lord, take care." Kong Luo cupped his hands towards Yi Qinghan. Then he and Gu Yang rushed out of the tunnel. They disappeared from everyone's sight in a few leaps. Chapter 638. Xiaohe, return to the War Beast space. Since Kong Luo and the others had left, Yi Qinghan had also arranged a path of retreat for himself. Originally, he thought that if the wandering war god were to make a move, he wouldn't be able to do so. He would attack Xiaohe and activate the quaint necklace on Xiaohe's neck, allowing Xiaohe to kill the wandering war god and the others. But just now he changed his mind. Although Lord Devourer was strong, he had killed too many people. And, with so many Emperor God realm experts out there, perhaps Lord Devourer's enemies were there. If Shi Yin could sense Lord Devourer's aura from this necklace, the other experts could also sense it. At that time, Xiaohe would be in more danger. Hence, he could only rely on the Slaughter God Blade. This was a dead end. As long as he used the Slaughter God Blade, the Wandering Battle God would be affected. As long as he found a way to stand at the safe end of the passage, the Wandering War Gods would not be able to escape even if they wanted to. As for the other War Gods, Yi Qinghan did not care about them at all. The only risk of doing this was that they would alert the other formidable martial artists near the passageway. However, Jiang Yi recalled that the God Bandits had stopped at the fork in the road. It was obvious that they had recognized that this was a dead end. The only thing he could bet on was that the other experts would recognize this as a dead end and not dare to enter. That way, he would have enough time to recover and think of a way to leave. This was the only feasible solution that he had thought about for a long time. Therefore, after Kong Luo and the others left, Yi Qinghan let Xiaohe enter the B space to prevent Xiaohe from getting hurt in the chaotic battle. If he activated that necklace, it would be troublesome. Xiaohe knew what Yi Qinghan was thinking, so he did not refute. Instead, he quietly turned into a shadow and disappeared into Yi Qinghan's chest. "All right, Wandering War God, do you want to take those 2 mutant fruits or kill me first?" After everything was arranged, Yi Qinghan relaxed. He spread his hands and raised his head, revealing his snow-white teeth as he grinned at everyone. He looked at Yi Qinghan, who had nothing in his hands and was not circulating his divine power. He did not seem to be preparing to fight at all. Everyone started to feel afraid. A martial artist was clearly aware that he was going to die, yet he was still smiling so calmly and brilliantly. That meant that this martial artist was either crazy or had something to rely on. Just like what Yi Qinghan had said, since Lu Chun had put such a high bounty on him, there must be something special about him. In addition to that, Li Shuer looked at him differently because of the godly pangolin armor and his strange strength. Countless people chose to believe the latter. "Humph! You guys guard the cave entrance and hold the line for me. I will go and kill him." Wandering War God looked at the martial artists around him, whose eyes were flickering. He knew that if he did not take action now, the momentum of his side would be overwhelmed by Yi Qinghan. Helplessly, he could only grit his teeth and hold his long spear. His figure flashed, and he stepped on the wall of the passage and stabbed at Yi Qinghan. He, Wandering War God, has only used 30% of his divine power, right? What are you afraid of? Go all out. When Yi Qinghan saw the speed of Wandering War God's long spear, the smile on his face became even brighter. He slid his feet and easily avoided Wandering War God's attack. Then, he continued to ridicule him. 30% of my divine power is enough to deal with a trash martial artist like you." Wandering War God's long spear trembled, and countless spear shadows appeared. These shadows enveloped Yi Qinghan's figure. Although his movements seemed fancy and powerful, his speed was extremely slow. Of course, this was only true for a God King. Everyone present knew that Wandering War God was very afraid of Yi Qinghan and did not dare to use his full strength. Right now, he was just testing the waters. 7% of his divine power was on defense. He was secretly on guard against Yi Qinghan's attack. "Ha! You are too slow. Even a first-stage god general like me can easily dodge my attack. Wandering war god, do you dare to use your full strength? Did you cultivate to the god-king realm by refining god crystals? Useless. This situation was exactly what Yi Qinghan hoped for. He kept the flexible sword in his hand and did not attack. Instead, he only dodged and mocked Wandering War God continuously. This was to give Wandering War God the illusion that he wanted Wandering War God to attack with his full strength. The more Wandering War God thought about it, the more afraid Wandering War God would be to attack him with his full strength. This way, Jiang Yi would be able to slowly switch their positions. When their positions were completely switched, Jiang Yi would use the Slaughter God Blade. Wandering War God became even more careful. Although he did not stop attacking, he did not dare to use too much of his divine power. His divine sense was constantly locked on to Yi Qinghan. If Yi Qinghan made any strange movements, he would immediately escape. As expected, he saw Yi Qinghan suddenly smile strangely. Yi Qinghan touched his ring with one hand, and a long black blade appeared in his hand. The cold and evil aura emitted from the blade caused even Wandering War God to feel a chill down his spine. This is strange. Retreat. Wandering War God did not think too much and retreated decisively. However, halfway through his retreat, he suddenly stopped. His entire body was drenched in cold sweat, and his face turned pale. Unknowingly, his and Yi Qinghan's positions had been switched. Just now, if he had reacted a little slower, he would have retreated to a dangerous area and been sucked in a sealed God Valley. Retreat. Continue to retreat. Wandering War God. Now you know why I am worth so much money, right? When Yi Qinghan saw Wandering War God's reaction, the smile on his face became even wider. However, at this moment, his eyes had started to turn red, and his smile looked extremely sinister. With a wave of his hand, the Slaughter God Blade gently swung behind him. Instantly, a black fog was released, enveloping the dozens of martial artists behind him. Jiang Yi knew that he had made the right bet. Although the Slaughter God Blade could not completely affect Wandering War God was still afraid of it. As long as Wandering War God did not dare to go near him, Jiang Yi was confident that he could force Wandering War God into a dead end and eventually be sucked in a sealed God Valley. What is this thing? Run! Aya! My head hurts! Han Yi, please spare me. The group of peak god generals behind him was instantly enveloped by the Slaughter God Blade's black fog. At such a close distance, without any suspense, all of them were hit. They held their heads and rolled on the ground. Those who kill will always be killed. Since you are out to mingle, you have to pay. Yi Qinghan did not care about the ashen-faced Wandering War God in front of him. He turned around and walked into the black fog. He started to harvest human lives, divine crystals, and interspatial rings. As for these martial artists who were his comrades just an hour ago, Yi Qinghan did not have the slightest bit of mercy. With a wave of his blade, countless heads fell to the ground. Han Yi, I have eyes but failed to recognize Mount Tai. I have offended you. Don't kill me. I am willing to offer all my treasures and divine stones to you, as long as you let me leave. Otherwise, if I am sucked into sealed God Valley, you will not get anything. I have more than 100 million divine stones on me. The Wandering War God could hear screams coming from the black fog. However, in just a moment, the screams stopped. The black fog became thinner, revealing the corpses on the ground. The green-robed Yi Qinghan slowly walked out of the black fog and walked towards him. The Wandering War God knew that if he did not do anything, he would become one of the corpses on the ground. He resolutely knelt on the ground and offered the interspatial ring in his hand with both hands. He continuously kowtowed and begged. At this moment, his life was more important than his pride. More than 100 million divine stones? I don't care about it. Go! Yi Qinghan nodded, but he did not stop walking. The moment he said that, he raised the Slaughter God Blade in his hand and slashed it down heavily. As the Slaughter God Blade slashed down, a black aura was emitted from the blade. Along with the evil aura in the blade, it slashed towards the Wandering War God. In the face of a god king, Yi Qinghan did not dare to be careless. Although he needed divine stones, his life was more important. Not only did he release the murderous aura in the blade, but he also used the divine power in his body. As long as this murderous aura affected the wandering war god, the blade formed by the divine power would easily send him into the depths of the tunnel. After that, he would be sucked in a sealed god valley. Then, he would be completely safe. Chapter 639. Rumble. However, as Yi Qinghan slashed down, the passageway started to shake. An extremely strong suction force came from the passageway. In the blink of an eye, the wandering war god who was kneeling on the ground was sucked in by that strong suction force. Damn! What is happening? When Yi Qinghan felt the suction force, he immediately stabbed the slaughter god blade into the wall. He hugged the blade tightly with both hands and started to resist the violent suction force. As he was slightly further away from the wall and his reaction speed was fast, he was able to temporarily stabilize himself. Damn! Xiaohei, come out! Yi Qinghan felt that the suction force was getting stronger and stronger. He couldn't hold on any longer and quickly summoned Xiaohei. When Xiaohei was just formed, he used all his strength to send him flying towards the other side of the passageway. Xiaohei, let's go. Think of a way to the Soul Devourer Manor and ask Lord Devour to help us by the Fire Dragon Dimension. Yi Qinghan felt that the Slaughter God blade was being pulled out bit by the strong suction force. He knew that he couldn't hold on any longer. He quickly shouted, but his heart was filled with sadness. Even his murderous aura seemed to have been suppressed and his mind was clear. Am I finally going to die? He felt the violent suction force behind him. It was like the chains of the Grim Reaper was dragging his body towards the 9 nether realms step by step. Yi Qinghan knew that he was really done for this time. His heaven-defying luck had finally run out. In this godforsaken place, no one could save him. He didn't know where Li Bai was. Of course, even if he was nearby, it would be too late. Even if he could make it in time, he wouldn't be able to pull him out. Qingyu, Qingcheng, Qingwu alluring. I am finally going to die. I hope that all of you will forget about me. I hope that all of you will be happy. Sigh. After coming to this world, I actually didn't leave behind any incense. Could it be that I have some physiological problems? If I die this time, will I transmigrate again? Transmigrate back to Earth? Yi Qinghan felt that the suction force was getting stronger and stronger. The Slaughter God Saber was also being pulled out. Perhaps in the next second, it would be sucked into the black hole. He began to let his imagination run wild. Perhaps this was the wild mentality of every person who was about to die. Xiao! At this moment, a black figure dashed towards Yi Qinghan at lightning speed. Yi Qinghan's eyes began to enlarge. He was stunned for a moment before he flew into a rage. His face contorted and he used all the strength in his body to shout, Xiaohei, you idiot! Are you crazy? Get lost! Yi Qinghan swung his palm at Xiaohei again, but he found that Xiaohei was still flying toward him at high speed. The suction force was too strong, and the repulsion force was useless. Boss, don't panic. Let me see if there is any use in activating that necklace. If there is no use, then we will die together. I said before that I will accompany you to the Hades realm. Just as Yi Qinghan finished shouting, Xiaohei's voice transmission arrived. Furthermore, as Xiaohei flew over, he took out a dagger from his interspatial ring and ruthlessly stabbed himself in the chest. Buzz! As Xiaohei expected, a dazzling light lit up, and the simple necklace on his neck quietly appeared. That suffocating and destructive aura enveloped the entire tunnel. The entire tunnel within a radius of tens of miles trembled. Furthermore, this aura started to spread out through the tunnel. Xiao. However, such a strong and terrifying aura had no effect on the suction force coming from the tunnel. The moment the light shone, the Slaughter God blade finally left the tunnel. Yi Qinghan only had enough time to carry Xiaohei, who was flying towards him, into her arms. The two of them instantly disappeared into the dark tunnel. Xiaohei's eyes lit up. Kong Luo and Gu Yang did not go too far away. They walked out of the fork in the tunnel, randomly chose a tunnel and waited nearby. They were indebted to Yi Qinghan. Furthermore, he had given them instructions just now. It seemed like he was very confident that he could kill the wandering war god and the rest. Therefore, the two of them did not run. Instead, they waited quietly, hoping for a miracle to happen. As expected, not long after, a cold aura came from the dead end, and the surroundings of the tunnel started to tremble slightly. The two of them looked at each other and were pleasantly surprised. Could it be that Yi Qinghan had made a move when they had just walked out of the tunnel? If his move was so powerful, then the situation might really be reversed. Haha, there is actually an idiot who made a move in the dead end? Isn't he seeking his own death? As long as someone uses energy attacks in the dead end, the suction force will increase by several times. I wonder which idiot is so impulsive? At this moment, suddenly, a mocking voice came from the fork in the tunnel. The two of them tensed up. Someone was actually so close to them without them noticing. However, when they heard this person's words, the two of them looked at each other in dismay. Wasn't it Yi Qinghan who made a move? Instead, the suction force in the tunnel increased by several times. Wouldn't everyone be sucked into the sealed God Valley? Buzz! Just when the two of them could not decide whether to escape or continue to stay, another wave came from the dead end. Not only the two of them, but even the mysterious expert at the fork in the tunnel had a change of expression. The mysterious expert looked at the road of death with some fear. But he turned around and began to madly run back the way he came. What was going on? Kong Luo and Gu Yang were at a loss. In the end, they gritted their teeth and started to run frantically. Such a powerful aura, such a huge pressure. Even if Li Bai released his full strength, it wouldn't be so terrifying. This situation was no longer something the two of them could handle. Similarly, this wave alarmed the nearby martial artists. Everyone's expression changed abruptly, and they started to run frantically without hesitation. Although everyone didn't know what happened, with such a terrifying aura, no matter what, it would be safer to run further away. And the aura of the love of the dancing butterfly? Why would young Lord appear in the Phoenix Cloud Mountains? That idiot from the Li clan, why didn't he stay in the pangolin armor and ran to the Phoenix Cloud Mountains to play? If young Lord is sucked into the sealed God Valley, I will die 1,000 times. Thousands of miles in the east of the Phoenix Cloud Mountains, a cold female voice came from a phoenix. On the back of the huge phoenix, there was only a figure sitting there quietly. This figure looked very blurry. They only knew that she was wearing a green robe, and she had a pair of beautiful eyes. Then, the phoenix suddenly changed its direction. Its two huge wings started to flap frantically as it rushed towards the Phoenix Cloud Mountains in the west. In the far north of the ethereal mainland, in the Soul Devourer Manor's city, Lord Manor, two figures suddenly flew out of the city Lord Manor and headed straight for the teleportation array. Their speed was so fast that the guards of the teleportation array thought they were seeing things. However, just as the guards were about to scold the newcomers for not knowing the rules, they saw a black token with the word Devour written on it. It was extremely eye-catching. Greetings, Palace Lord. There was only one person in the Soul Devourer Manor who possessed this token, and that was their Palace Lord. The other second Palace Lords and third Palace Lords only carried this token with the word Soul. All the guards present easily recognized the newcomers. They all stared at the fiery red figure, standing quietly in the teleportation array with burning passion. Activate the teleportation array. Immediately teleport to Beacon Smoke Manor, Nether City. The fiery red figure said indifferently before falling silent. A beautiful woman stood beside him. She stood calmly, and her entire body exuded a trace of elegance and tranquility. Her beautiful brows were slightly furrowed as she sent a worried voice transmission. My lord, what happened? Why are you in such a hurry? Something has happened to Xiaohe. He used the love of the dancing butterfly just now, and now, I can't sense his aura anymore. Moreover, Yi Qinghan's aura has also disappeared. Mo Xiao Xiao. That trash can't even look after a person properly. If something has happened to Xiaohe, I will definitely kill her. The fiery red figure said indifferently. Her voice was still calm, but the woman beside her could still hear a trace of urgency in her voice. A rainbow light flashed, and the two figures disappeared into the teleportation array. Chapter 640. There was good news in the Flame Dragon continent. The entire Flame Dragon continent had been immersed in joy for more than a year, just like when the Divine Master had killed a god. The entire continent had been in jubilation. This was because news had come from the sacred land of the continent, Song City. The Empress was pregnant. Yi Qinghan had been conferred the title of Frost Monarch. His deeds had been deliberately spread by the martial practitioners of the continent. He had become the only god in the hearts of billions of people on the continent. Not long after Frost Monarch had returned from the Divine Realm, news of Empress Yi Qingwu's pregnancy had spread. The Empress's pregnancy was a joyous occasion for the entire continent. Countless people offered incense and prayed for their blessings every day. They prayed for Empress to give birth to a child so that Frost Monarch could have a descendant. The entire Song City had become busy because of Yi Qingwu's pregnancy. Dozens of maids had moved into the Chilling Heart Pavilion to take care of Yi Qingwu. Yi Qingwu had been pregnant for almost 2 years. The pregnancy cycle in the Flame Dragon continent was usually 1 year. However, if the mother was a powerful martial practitioner, she could control the cycle and let the baby stay longer in the mother's womb. The longer the baby stayed in the mother's body and received the nourishment of the mother's spiritual energy every day, the stronger and healthier the baby would be after birth. Their cultivation speed would also be faster. Yi Qingwu had already reached the 3rd tier of the martial saint realm. She was naturally a powerful martial practitioner. With her powerful cultivation, she had delayed the pregnancy cycle by 1 year. Half a month ago, she had finally given birth to a child. The news that Frost Monarch had a descendant spread throughout the continent in just 1 day. The continent was in jubilation, and the entire Song City was drowned in a sea of joy. Chilling Heart Pavilion, 2nd floor. Yi Qingwu was lying on a large bed. Her face was serene. She hadn't become extremely weak after giving birth. Yu Qingqing sat on the bedside and softly spoke to her. Yi Qingyu, on the other hand, was teasing the little fellow that had just been born. Little Yi Qinghan had been in his mother's womb for 2 years. He was born strong and full of spirit. Now it was only half a month. His pure black eyes seemed to be able to speak. From time to time, he glanced at the 3 of them. He looked strong and cute. The 3 of them had very warm and peaceful expressions on their faces. As they chatted, they laughed incessantly. However, there was a hidden gloominess in the depths of their eyes. It had been 15 days since the little fellow was born. The moment he was born, Yu Qingqing entered the unfettered pavilion and reported the news to Elder Lu. She wanted to pass on the message to Yi Qinghan and ask him to come back. However, 15 days had passed, but there was still no news, not even a word. The 3 of them couldn't help but feel a little sad. If Yi Qinghan heard about this, he would definitely think of a way to come back. Even if he couldn't see his son, he would come back to see Yi Qingwu. When they thought about the arrangements that Yi Qinghan had made when he came back, the 3 of them had a bad feeling. When Yi Qinghan was 1 month old, Yi Qingwu couldn't bear it anymore. She entered the unfettered pavilion with Yu Qingqing and Yi Qingyu. You don't have to worry. I have already sent a message to Little Han. Maybe it's not convenient for him to send a message or come back. You know that there are many experts in the immortal world. If he opens the doors of the unfettered pavilion, he will be easily exposed. It will be troublesome if he is spied on. Apart from the Chilling Heart Pavilion, Elder Lu spent the rest of his time cultivating in the unfettered pavilion. When he saw the 3 of them coming together, he obviously knew what they were thinking. He smiled and tried to persuade them. All right, Elder Lu, if you have any news, please pass on the message to us immediately. Yi Qingwu knew that Elder Lu was telling the truth. She exchanged a look with the other 2 and smiled bitterly. Then, she teleported away under Elder Lu's calm and gentle gaze. However, as soon as the 3 of them left, Elder Lu's calm and gentle gaze suddenly turned cold. His face, which was originally smiling, instantly became incomparably pale. He had lied to the 3 of them. He didn't send a message to Yi Qinghan. It wasn't because he didn't want to. It was because his divine sense couldn't sense Yi Qinghan's situation. He couldn't contact Yi Qinghan. He had never encountered such a situation before. He was terrified and worried. He was the guardian of the unfettered pavilion. He was very familiar with the unfettered pavilion, even in a place where space was extremely unstable like the murderous stream. At the same time, his divine sense could spread out from the carefree ring through the connection between the carefree pavilion and the carefree ring. Thus, he could easily sense Yi Qinghan's existence and transmit his divine sense to him. However, his divine sense couldn't pass through the unfettered pavilion and sense the unfettered ring. The unfettered pavilion was a parallel space. A parallel space was actually a small space within space. It was connected to space everywhere. That was why powerful cultivators could use the transportation door to lock onto this parallel space and refine it. This was why Elder Lu had instructed Yi Qinghan not to open the transportation door to the unfettered pavilion in front of powerful cultivators. However, the connection between the unfettered pavilion and the unfettered ring had been severed. This situation terrified Elder Lu. This meant that either the unfettered ring had been destroyed by force, or the unfettered ring was in a special space that had been cut off from the unfettered pavilion. No matter which answer it was, something had happened to Yi Qinghan. If the unfettered ring had been destroyed, then Yi Qinghan was definitely dead. The other possibility was that Yi Qinghan was in a special space. However, Elder Lu hadn't heard of any place that could be cut off from a parallel space. Even if there was, it would be an extremely dangerous place. Elder Lu tried to sense the location of the unfettered ring through the unfettered pavilion again. However, he couldn't sense it even after a long time. After staying in the training room for half a day, he couldn't sit still anymore. In a flash, he left the unfettered pavilion and appeared on the rooftop of the Chilling Heart Pavilion. As soon as he appeared, Elder Lu teleported away. After a few teleportations, he arrived at the castle in the dark forest. Lord Devour had gone to the divine world. However, Elder Lu deduced that since she had promised Yi Qinghan to protect the Flame Dragon continent for 1,000 years, she would definitely keep her promise. As such, she would definitely leave a spy in the Dark Castle who would be able to transmit information about the Flame Dragon continent to her at any time. The entire Dark Castle was quiet. There wasn't a single person in sight. Only a snow-white rabbit was dozing off under the grape trellis on the rooftop. Elder Lu knew that this rabbit, which seemed to be only at the martial sage level, definitely had a way to contact Lord Devour. Therefore, he teleported to the rooftop of the castle and cupped his hands in greeting to the rabbit. Then, he quickly transmitted his voice. Lu Shi pays his respects to Lord Devour. What's the matter? Indeed. The rabbit opened its eyes and glanced at Elder Lu. However, it didn't attack. Instead, it opened its mouth and spoke calmly. Please send a message to Lord Devour. I can't sense anything from the unfettered ring. I think something bad has happened to Little Han. Elder Lu didn't waste any time and told the rabbit his deduction. She already knows about it and is dealing with it now. A trace of helplessness flashed in the rabbit's eyes. Then, she looked to the south and said, "Don't let those girls know about this. I will inform you if there is any news." Elder Lu's heart sank. Indeed, his deduction was right. Something bad had happened to Yi Qinghan. However, from the rabbit's words, it seemed that Lord Devour already knew about it. Moreover, he had sent a message to her so quickly. What was the relationship between this rabbit and Lord Devour? However, Elder Lu didn't dare to ask. He bowed to the rabbit respectfully and left with teleportation. Since Lord Devour already knew about it, with her formidable strength, she should be able to deal with it easily. Elder Lu thought. Chapter 641. The killing in the Phoenix Glow Mountain Range continued. This time, the Seal God Valley spat out a large number of mutant fruits, causing hundreds of thousands of god bandits to go crazy. The number of mutant fruits this time was many times more than the previous one. The most important thing was that there would be another eruption later, although the quantity was not much. However, many old fogies who roamed the Phoenix Cloud Mountain Range knew that if the Sealed God Valley experienced a second well eruption, the second mutant fruit would definitely be extremely rare. The mutant fruit that had been auctioned for tens of billions was a product of the second well eruption. Hence, after the second eruption, the entire Phoenix Glow Mountain range went crazy. They searched for the mutant fruits in a frenzy. Those martial artists who were lucky enough to obtain the mutant fruits started to think of ways to avoid being hunted down by other martial artists. If they could survive, they would have struck gold. As for those martial artists who did not obtain the mutant fruits, they started to kill crazily. They killed every martial artist they saw. As long as they were weaker than their own team, they would kill them. Not only these low-grade martial artists, but even those strong martial artists hidden in the depths of the mountain range also started to move. The situation became even more chaotic. Roar! At this time, a huge beast flew over from the east of the mountain range. Everyone who was fighting was stunned for a moment. Then they continued to fight. However, when they used their divine senses to detect a green figure flying out from the huge beast, they were all secretly shocked. Even many the arch-formidable martial artists were secretly on guard. Many teams that were originally fighting also quickly split up and started to hide in the forest. They all recognized that this was the Battle God Pavilion's celestial phoenix. This green figure was obviously a battle god. This was not important. At this time, there were many martial artists in the Phoenix Glow Mountain range who had taken off their battle god robes and put on their black robes. They had turned from battle gods into secret bandits. What was important was this lady's strength. She was very fast, but not so fast that everyone was afraid. What shocked many formidable martial artists was that they could not see this martial artist's face clearly. They could only see that she was wearing a green dress and had a pair of beautiful eyes. Even more than 10 the arch-formidable martial artists could not see this person's face clearly. Many people understood what this strange phenomenon meant. This was a soul cultivator, a powerful soul cultivator. The woman flew out from the celestial bird. With a wave of her hand, the celestial bird flapped its wings and soared into the sky. The woman stood in the sky in silence. She didn't bother about the countless warriors who were looking at her in fear. She also didn't bother about the few emperor gods who were fighting in the sky. Instead, it closed its beautiful big eyes, then started to spread its divine sense, sweeping across the entire Phoenix Cloud Mountain range without the slightest restraint. Hua! The woman's arrogance and her attitude of looking down on hundreds of thousands of experts made many experts somewhat angry. Even if you're a soul cultivator, you can't be so arrogant. Such an arrogant attitude. Wasn't this a blatant provocation? However, when they sensed the woman's divine sense, they all concealed the trace of dissatisfaction in their eyes. Then he began to quietly flash into the distance. It was as if the person in the sky was not a beautiful woman, but a dreadful beast. Even the god emperors who were fighting in the sky quickly stopped fighting. Both of them looked at the woman with extreme fear. Then, both of them dashed downwards and disappeared into the vast forest. The space in the immortal world was incomparably stable, and the divine sense of a heavenly god could only spread out to a distance of 1,000 meters. However, this woman had instantly enveloped the entire Phoenix Cloud Mountain range. All the god emperors present did not have the ability to envelop the entire Phoenix Cloud Mountain range with their divine senses. With this strange situation, everyone understood that this woman had already reached the god emperor realm. Moreover, she was a god emperor realm soul cultivator. Otherwise, it would be impossible for her to have such a powerful divine sense. Soul cultivators cultivated their souls. It was hard to cultivate the soul, but it was hard to improve one's cultivation level. Once a soul cultivator broke through to the god emperor realm, his strength would reach the level of a 7th grade war god. The strength of a 7th grade war god was the strongest among those present. Most importantly, the attacks of soul cultivators were extremely strange and could kill without leaving a trace. No one dared to stay in the air, and no one dared to continue fighting. Such a powerful expert had descended, especially when the sealed God Valley was erupting. Everyone became extremely nervous. If this woman was here to snatch the strange fruits, it would be troublesome. As expected, the auras of Lord Xiaohe and Yi Qinghan are nowhere to be found. It seems like the two of them have been sucked into the sealed God Valley. A trace of anger and worry flashed across the woman's beautiful eyes. Her divine sense continued to sweep across the Phoenix Cloud mountain range, but her eyes became even dimmer. Everyone get into the air! Whoever dares to stay below for the time it takes for half an incense stick to burn will be killed without mercy. A moment later, a faint voice sounded in the ears of everyone below. No one was left behind. Even the martial artists who were tens of thousands of meters below the mountain range received this voice transmission. Such a method was simply shocking. The hundreds of thousands of martial artists in the Phoenix Cloud mountain range had already stopped fighting when the woman released her overbearing divine sense and swept it across the mountain range again and again. Instead, they kept a low profile and hid, afraid that they would anger this expert. It was rumored that soul cultivators could use their divine sense to kill. Once they were targeted by this woman, there was no way to escape. Now that they received this woman's voice transmission, everyone became even more apprehensive. Since this woman could instantly send a voice transmission to them, it meant that her divine sense could easily lock onto everyone present. That also meant that she could easily kill them. The god bandits in the Phoenix Cloud mountain range were very clear that the reason why they could run amok here and not be wiped out by the nearby formidable martial artists was because there were no powerful soul cultivators in the nearby prefectures. It was because there were no powerful soul cultivators in the nearby prefectures. If powerful soul cultivators came to wipe them out, none of the god bandits in the Phoenix Cloud mountain range would be able to escape. Hundreds of thousands of years ago, the Phoenix Cloud mountain range had been completely wiped out once. It was a powerful soul cultivator from the Grace mainland who had passed by Longyang Prefecture and accepted the invitation of the Prefecture Lord of Longyang Prefecture. Finally, he made his move. Hundreds of thousands of god bandits in the Phoenix Cloud mountain range were all killed. It was only now, hundreds of thousands of years had passed, that the god bandits had once again flourished. Swish! Countless air-piercing sounds rang out. In the forest, in the passageways, under the soil, countless figures instantly rose into the air. All of them stood there obediently in the air and bowed to this woman. They looked at her with complicated expressions and remained silent. Swish! At the same time, countless martial artists started to run into the distance. These were all the martial artists who had obtained the strange fruits. At this moment, everyone could not help but suspect that this woman was here to snatch the strange fruits. They were risking their lives for these strange fruits. Of course, they would not hand over the strange fruits just because this woman said so. Ah, my lady, please spare my life. I have the strange fruits, and I am willing to give them to my lady. However, these people started to grab their heads at the same time and started to roll on the ground. Their faces were filled with pain. It was obvious that they had suffered a soul spirit attack. I am not here to snatch the strange fruits. I will say it again. Everyone, rise into the sky. If anyone dares to escape, kill without mercy. The green-robed woman scanned the fleeing figures indifferently. These martial artists instantly felt that the intense pain in their soul spirits had disappeared. All of them had bitter expressions as they flew into the sky helplessly. No one dared to escape anymore. There were 3 god thearchs among the martial artists who had escaped just now. Even they could not retaliate. Who would dare to send themselves to their deaths? What's more, when they heard this woman say that she was not here to snatch the strange fruits, they also relaxed. Since such a big shot had spoken, she would definitely not be here to snatch the strange fruits in their hands. There were more and more warriors in the sky. It was a dark mass like a huge dark cloud. The Phoenix Cloud Mountain, which was filled with killings just now, had suddenly quietened down. It was dead silent. In just a moment, the huge Phoenix Cloud Mountain had become empty. All that was left were countless corpses and a mountain full of fresh blood. Among you, who has seen this man and this small beast, step forward. Don't try to hide. I can easily check your soul spirits. If you dare to hide, I will search your soul directly. The green-robed woman used her divine senses to scan the Phoenix Cloud Mountain again. Then, She waved her hand, and a huge phantom image appeared in the sky. The phantom image was of a delicate-looking young man who was hugging a black, single-horned small beast. The image was extremely clear, as though it was a real person. Even the gentle smile on the young man's face was unusually obvious. Chapter 642. Wow! The woman's strange actions and words caused countless exclamations. Some people exclaimed because of the soul search that the woman had mentioned. This was a very powerful method. Divine sense, probing the soul, might only be able to find some fragments, but the result after the soul search was that the martial artist would directly become a vegetable. Others exclaimed at the astonishing technique of the lady. They had never heard of such a technique, let alone seen it before. It was simply a miraculous technique. Of course, there were also people who recognized the person and small beast in the image. For example, Li Bai, Li Shuer, Kong Luo, and Gu Yang. Li Bai was very angry. Originally, Li Shuer wanted to come out and have some fun. With the three of them being 5th-grade war gods, ordinary warriors would definitely not be able to hurt them. Moreover, Li Shuan's father had given her a protective treasure. Ordinary Emperor God experts would not be able to hurt her. Even if there was an expert, as long as he said the name of Li Shuer's father, he wouldn't dare to touch her even if he gave him 100 guts. However, as soon as they came out, they encountered the blowout in the Apotheosis Valley that happened once every few decades. This caused the Phoenix Cloud Mountain Range to descend into complete chaos. Countless hidden experts appeared one after another, causing the situation to be out of his control. Now, a peerless expert suddenly came. It was fine if the peerless expert came. If he said the name of Li Shuer's father, the expert would give him some face. However, this expert was extremely domineering. Moreover, he condensed an image, and they all knew the person in the image. This expert said that those who knew him must come out, or he would be killed without mercy. This sudden situation caused the situation to become even more uncertain. If anything happened to Li Shuer, then the three of them wouldn't be able to escape even if they died 1,000 times. People of the Li family, come up here. All your accompanying war gods, come up here. And those who have seen this young man, come up here. If I find the image of this young man in your head, I will immediately search your soul. Li Bai and Li He exchanged a look and smiled bitterly. However, they heaved a sigh of relief. Since this expert knew that they were from the Li family, he definitely wouldn't attack Li Shuer. However, they might all suffer a calamity. Kong Luo and Gu Yang, on the other hand, were incomparably shocked. They had guessed that Yi Qinghan definitely had a powerful backer. Perhaps he was a young master of some great clan, but they didn't expect his backer to be so powerful. Thinking back to the words of the mysterious expert in the cave, coupled with the fact that they did not see Yi Qinghan's figure, they were very clear that Yi Qinghan had definitely been sucked into the sealed God Valley. Although the two of them had a good relationship with Yi Qinghan, they didn't know if she would punish them for this. Not long after, everyone who had met Yi Qinghan flew up into the air and stood at the same level as the woman. They didn't say anything and waited for the woman to ask. Not only Li Bai and the others, but even the war gods in Li Shuer's group all stood up. Even the pair of god bandits who had looked at Yi Qinghan and chased after Yi Qinghan had stepped forward. No one dared to take the risk of hiding anything. The methods of soul cultivators were very strange. If they ended up becoming a vegetable because of their concealment, they would be in deep trouble. Tell me everything about your meeting with this young man and send me a voice transmission at the same time. The woman said indifferently, but she closed her eyes and didn't speak anymore. Send voice transmission at the same time? Everyone was stunned. Soul cultivators were indeed strange. Their souls were so strong that they could receive voice transmissions from dozens of people at the same time. However, Li Bai and the others didn't think too much about it. They started to recall the process of their meeting with Yi Qinghan and started to send voice transmissions to the green-robed woman without missing a single word. Li Shuer looked at the blurry woman in front of her and started to hesitate. The encounter she had with Yi Qinghan in the training room of the godly mountain-piercing armor was a humiliation to her. Now, she had to recall it again and even recount it out loud, This made her very embarrassed. However, in this moment of hesitation, there was a piercing pain in her mind. She almost lost control of her body and fell down. However, this pain disappeared instantly. She bit her lip and knew that this was the green-robed woman's warning. She didn't dare to hesitate anymore and started to send voice transmissions. An hour later, everyone stopped sending voice transmissions. The green-robed lady also opened her eyes at the same time. Then, she looked coldly at the group of god bandits chasing after Yi Qinghan on the left. A glint of light flashed in her eyes as it entered the eyes of these 10 odd martial artists. Without any sound or any divine power ripples, these dozen-odd god bandits suddenly fell to the ground. More than 10 divine crystals and more than 10 interspatial rings floated up. These 10-odd martial artists were actually killed by this green-robed woman in an instant. What's more, there was even a third-stage god king, formidable martial artist among them. This, as these 10-odd corpses fell heavily on the ground and made loud bangs, there was no longer any sound. There was no longer any sound. Everyone looked nervously at the green-clothed woman. They didn't know why she wanted to kill these cultivators. They didn't know if she would kill even more people, or if she would kill everyone present. Li Bai, Li He, and Li Bai were guarding Li Shuer closely. Of course, their main goal was to protect the small beast that Li Shuer was carrying. They knew that if this woman wanted to kill Li Shuer, no matter how they resisted, it would be useless. However, they still subconsciously put up their defenses. Yet, after this woman killed these 10-odd martial artists, she didn't do anything else. She just stood there quietly, her beautiful eyes looking into the distance. No one knew what she was thinking about or waiting for. The current situation in the Phoenix Glow Mountain Range was very strange. Or rather, it was very stifling. There were countless corpses on the ground, but there were hundreds of thousands of martial artists standing in midair. Above them, there were dozens of people standing quietly. There were hundreds of thousands of people on the ground, but it was extremely quiet. Even the soft sound of the celestial phoenix's wings flapping 10,000 meters in the air rang clearly in everyone's ears. Buzz! This kind of stifling silence was broken by a slight spatial ripple that came from the northern sky. Along with this spatial ripple, 2 figures slowly condensed. One was a woman in a fiery red robe, whose face couldn't be seen clearly. The other was a woman in a white robe with incomparable elegance. Hiss, sounds of cold air being sucked and could be heard. These 2 women actually teleported here? Many formidable martial artists were very clear that the space in the divine realm was so stable, and they could teleport. It meant that these martial artists were at least 8th grade war gods, or that they had cultivated the law of space to an unparalleled level. Moreover, the offensive power of the law of space was insufficient. Very few people would cultivate the law of space wholeheartedly. This meant that one of these 2 people was most likely an 8th grade war god. Mo Xiao Xiao pays her respects to Lady. As soon as the 2 women appeared, under everyone's astonished gaze, the soul cultivator in the sky actually knelt down on one knee toward the 2 women and kowtowed respectfully. Paying respects to Lady. This red-robed woman was definitely an expert, at least 8th grade war god. There might be many 7th grade war gods in the divine realm, but there were definitely not many 8th grade war gods. They were existences at the pinnacle of the divine realm. It was unknown whether it was out of fear or respect, but everyone knelt down on one knee. Mo Xiao Xiao, look at what you've done. The red-robed woman spoke calmly. Then, she used her divine sense to scan the Phoenix Glow Mountain Range. After a while, she sighed and said somewhat helplessly, Yi Qinghan and Xiao He were indeed trapped in the Apotheosis Valley. I miscalculated. Do you know what happened? Mo Xiao Xiao is guilty. Please punish me, lady. The green-robed woman's beautiful eyes flashed with a trace of self-blame. Then, she started to transmit her voice to the red-robed woman. Kill all these god bandits and bury them with them. Also, go to the Dancing Phoenix City and kill everyone from the Lu family. After the red-robed woman heard this, she didn't speak for a long time. After a while, she said this and disappeared into the sky with the white-robed woman. Chapter 643. Kill them all? Hearing the lady's words, Li Bai was stunned. Li Shui was stunned. Kong Luo and Gu Yang were stunned. Hundreds of thousands of god bandits were stunned. Flee. Instantly, countless people came to their senses. Their first thought was to flee. No one dared to have any thoughts of resisting. Facing a 7th grade war god and an 8th grade war god, who would dare to retaliate? Even though there were hundreds of thousands of martial artists here, including many god-the-arch formidable martial artists, no one had any thoughts of resisting. Once a martial artist reached the 7th grade and above, the human wave tactic was no longer effective. The only choice was to flee together. With so many people, no matter how strong the 3 of them were, they couldn't possibly kill all of them at the same time, right? Swish! The sky was filled with figures running in all directions. From the sky, from the ground, some martial artists even rushed towards the center of the Phoenix Cloud mountainous range. In midair above the Phoenix Cloud mountainous range, it was as if a large herd of antelopes were peacefully enjoying the breeze and the fertile grass. Suddenly, a group of ferocious lions descended from the sky, and all the antelopes started to flee in fear. However, this herd of antelopes was glowing with multicolored god powers, and their speed was frighteningly fast. Don't move! Li Bai looked at the pale-faced Li Shui. Li Shui was obviously frightened as well. Seeing everyone start to run, her body also glowed with god powers as she prepared to escape. Li Bai hurriedly pulled her back and sent a voice transmission to the martial artists behind him, asking them not to move. He was very clear that if the lady in red wanted to kill everyone here, no one would be able to escape. What's more, he clearly heard the lady say to kill all these god bandits. They were from Dripping Spring City. Of course, they weren't god bandits. As expected, Li Bai's guess was right. Mo Xiaoxiao's beautiful big eyes flashed a sliver of helplessness when she heard the lady in red's command. Then, she saw the sky full of god bandits fleeing, and her eyes started to turn cold. Immediately, 2 balls of light lit up inside. These 2 balls of light instantly enlarged and became brighter and brighter. At last, they actually jumped out of the 2 eyes and formed 2 blinding bolts of lightning. These 2 bolts of lightning were not big. They were like 2 electric snakes. They did not have a powerful aura that made one's heart tremble, nor did they have a stunning appearance. They were silent. The only thing special about it was that it was fast, so fast that it was dazzling. 2 small electric snakes chased after the 2 fleeing cultivators. However, they only stayed on them for 0.01 seconds before they continued on to the cultivators beside them. It was just that the 2 lightning serpents became 4, and the 4 lightning serpents separately chased after the 4 martial artists, and then became 8 lightning serpents, and 8 lightning serpents became 16 lightning serpents. In the blink of an eye, in the eyes of Li Bai and the others, these 2 lightning serpents had already become countless. And finally, the entire sky was filled with dazzling little lightning serpents dancing wildly in the air, and the scene was magnificent to the extreme. Of course, it wasn't important. More importantly, as long as the cultivators were entangled by these electric snakes, their frantically running figures would instantly come to a stop. They all maintained various running postures. His body and face maintained the same expression as before, as if time had frozen at this moment. This situation was very strange. Li Bai was very clear that when a martial artist reached a certain realm, they would comprehend a kind of will. Relying on this will, he could solidify a small space, and even time and space would stop. It was just that this Mo Xiaoxiao's attack was clearly not a will, because they could move, they could breathe, they could swallow saliva, and their palms and backs could break out in cold sweat. Since it wasn't space freezing, then what was it? Why was it that in just a few breaths of time, these hundreds of thousands of martial artists stopped moving? Li Bai felt his heartbeat quicken, and his breathing also became heavy. Then his pupils began to shrink, and the cold sweat on his palms and backs became even more turbulent. AI. Don't blame me. I know that you all died unjustly, but Lord Xiaohe and Yi Qinghan have fallen in a sealed God Valley, and Lord is very angry, and the consequences of Lord's anger are very serious. Following Mo Xiaoxiao's faint sigh, the electric snakes that were entangling the hundreds of thousands of martial artists in the air suddenly left their bodies and began flying towards Mo Xiaoxiao. Finally, all of them entered into his pair of beautiful big eyes. Wang, wind suddenly rose in the sky. The wind wasn't strong, but as this cool breeze blew past, those figures that had stopped in the air began to silently fall to the ground. They were like countless withered leaves that were blown by the autumn wind and slowly fell to the ground. What was left was a sky full of divine crystals and spatial rings floating in the air. The colorful divine crystals were like the beautiful stars in the night sky, so beautiful that it broke one's heart. It made one's heart tremble. Hiss, it was unknown who started it, but the remaining dozens of cultivators in the sky all started to do the same. Breath after breath, 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 breath after breath. It seemed that the cold wind in Phoenix Cloud Mountain Range was especially fresh and especially delicious. As one of the 10 guardian elders of Dripping Spring City, it wasn't that Li Bai had never seen murder, nor had he never seen so many divine crystals and spatial rings. But this was the first time he saw so many people being killed at once, and it was so easy, so casual. As for the group of war gods behind him, all of their faces had turned extremely pale, and even their lips had started to turn white. Their bodies were also trembling slightly at the same time. To them, God King Realm was already an impressive expert, and God Emperor Realm was an existence that they could only look up to. But Mo Xiaoxiao had killed hundreds of thousands of martial artists instantly, and among them were hundreds of God Emperor experts. What kind of shocking technique was that? Kong Luo and Gu Yang looked at each other in dismay. They weren't shocked that Mo Xiaoxiao killed so many people at once, but they were shocked that the deaths of these hundreds of thousands of people were all buried together with Yi Qinghan. One person's death actually required so many people to be buried together with him. What kind of honor was that? Yi Qinghan's background was actually so great that they didn't dare to imagine it. And from the tone of the lady in red, it seemed that it wasn't enough, and she even wanted to uproot the Liu family in Dancing Phoenix City. Forget about the God Bandits, but the Liu family resided in Dancing Phoenix City. No matter how strong a martial artist was, would he dare to ignore the iron law of the divine world and kill people in the city? All of you go back to Dripping Spring City. Manor Head Li and Milord are old friends, and this time, it wasn't your fault. Hence, I won't punish you. Mo Xiaoxiao didn't care about the pale faces of Li Bai and the others. She waved her hand and kept all the divine crystals and interspatial rings in the sky. Then, she flew into the celestial phoenix that was circling 10,000 miles high in the sky. The celestial phoenix flapped its huge wings gently, turned and flew towards the south. In no time, it disappeared from everyone's sight. She really flew towards Dancing Phoenix City. Is she really going to uproot the Liu family in the city? After a long time, it wasn't known who spoke first. Although this person tried his best to calm himself down, he still stuttered unconsciously. Everyone's gaze became complicated. To a true expert, the iron law of the divine world is no different from toilet paper. Return to the divine mountain armor and go to Dripping Spring City. Li Bai and the others exchanged glances. All of them knew that this Mo Xiaoxiao would definitely go to the Dancing Phoenix City, and she would definitely kill someone. Because such a thing had been done many times in the God world by that red-robed woman earlier. This woman's reputation as a malignant star was extremely famous in the God world. Looking at the little divine beast in Li Shui's arms, the three of them secretly rejoiced. Fortunately, Li Shui recognized Xiao Hei's identity and didn't do anything to Yi Qinghan because of the conflict between Yi Qinghan and Li Shui. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. Li Shui might be fine, but it was hard to say for them. Chapter 644. After a year, Dancing Phoenix City's lockdown was lifted. Because of Niu Yaohua's incident, the upper echelons of Dancing Phoenix City were shaken and affected. However, they were slowly disappearing. Dancing Phoenix City returned to its usual bustling state. Groups of soldiers dressed in fiery red armor patrolled the city walls as usual. Because there had been a beast tide a few decades ago, the guards were not too worried. The city was very safe. No one dared to cause trouble in the city. Unless there was a beast tide, there wouldn't be anything that would make them nervous. Halt! However, an hour later, a green figure flew from the north. This made them nervous. It wasn't strange for someone to fly into the city. However, this person was extremely fast. Moreover, he didn't look like he was slowing down or descending. This was very strange. It was possible to enter the city, but he had to enter through the city gates. If he flew into the city recklessly, it would be a provocation to Dancing Phoenix City. Therefore, even though they knew that this cultivator was definitely a top-notch powerhouse given how fast he was, they still followed the rules and flew up to warn the green figure. However, their warning wasn't of much use. The person continued to fly into the city recklessly. He didn't say anything. Or maybe he was too lazy to say anything. He just waved at the guards. Alert! The guard leader's expression changed. He wanted to yell, "Alert! Activate the protective shield." However, he suddenly felt a gust of wind. Then his mind was in a mess. He stood there in a daze. When he woke up, the figure was already standing in the sky above a courtyard in the east of the city. Level 1 alert! The guard leader finally knew that something big was about to happen. His expression changed as he yelled. His voice became shrill because of fear. It reverberated throughout the entire Dancing Phoenix City. The millions of martial art practitioners in the city were alarmed. Swoosh! Countless figures rose into the air from the houses, courtyards, and streets of the city. All of their divine powers surged as though they were facing a great enemy. Level 1 alert was the highest level of alert. It meant that a strong enemy or beast was going to attack Dancing Phoenix City. In this kind of situation, all the martial artists in the city had to work together to resist the enemy. Get out of my way, everyone. I don't want to kill too many people today. I just want to kill the Liu clan. I will ask for forgiveness from the Misty Sovereign. If anyone dares to stop me, I don't mind killing a few more. The woman was Mo Xiao, who had rushed over from the Phoenix Cloud mountain range. She turned her head indifferently, revealing a pair of beautiful big eyes and a blurry face. Her beautiful big eyes were filled with killing intent. Hua! As soon as Mo Xiao finished speaking, the entire city shook. There was actually someone who dared to openly say that he wanted to kill someone in a city in the divine world, and even wanted to exterminate an entire clan? How arrogant! How arrogant! How domineering was that? Mo Xiao did not care about the complicated expressions of the warriors in the city. Instead, she revealed a beautiful little hand and gently patted the courtyard below. In the eyes of the crowd, the palm seemed to have left Mo Xiao's body, and then slowly enlarged, finally becoming a huge palm that completely covered the courtyard below. Boom! There was a huge explosion. The huge residence below turned into a pile of rubble, stirring up a cloud of dust that dyed the sky of the Dancing Phoenix City gray. Strangely, there used to be countless warriors living in the yard. There were tens of thousands of Liu family members, but none of them flew up to the sky to fight. They didn't even make a sound, not even a scream, until the yard was turned into ruins. But everyone knew that the Liu clan was finished. Completely finished. Because there were countless divine crystals and space rings floating on the rubble. How dare you? Take her down! Kill! Only then did the guards in the city come to their senses. They all rushed towards Mo Xiao. They all knew that no one in the group of guards was a match for this person, but they still rushed forward. As the guards of the Dancing Phoenix City, they had to protect the dignity of the city with their lives. Why didn't the new city lord and the elders of the city come out? And why didn't the pavilion master of the God of War pavilion come out? The leader of the guards rushed forward with a long knife in his hand. He looked as if he was going to die. However, he cursed inwardly. Since he had already sent out the level 1 alarm, why didn't the important people in the city come out to help? Did they want to see this woman massacre the city? Of course, Mo Xiao would not massacre the entire city. She did not say another word. nor did she look at the tens of thousands of guards who were rushing towards her. She just scanned the city with her divine sense, and then flew out of the city. Strangely, all the warriors who got close to her were confused. They stood in the air in a daze. They only came to their senses when the green figure flew out of the city and disappeared into the distance. Lock down the dancing Phoenix City and activate the protective shield. I'm going to see the city lord. The leader of the guards wiped the cold sweat off his face, but the more he wiped, the more sweat he felt. He dashed toward the city lord's mansion. However, the entire dancing Phoenix City was silent. All the warriors and guards in the city stared at the ruins in a daze. The dust continued to rise from the ruins. They were still in shock and had yet to recover from the shock. Who did the Liu clan offend? How could they be killed in the divine realm in such a tyrannical manner? They were not even given a chance to defend themselves. The warriors in the city and the clansmen of the big clans all gulped as the same sentence appeared in their minds at the same time. When the guard leader rushed to the gate of the city lord's mansion, there was a group of guards standing at the gate, firmly blocking the gate. The city lord has ordered that he is receiving 2 distinguished guests. No one is allowed to enter. The guards of the city lord's residence were the private soldiers of the city lord's residence. Even though there was such a big commotion in the city, they still stood guard in front of the residence. Long San, are you stupid? Don't you know what just happened? Get out of the way. I want to see the city lord. The leader of the guards shouted angrily at the guard who had spoken. I am only responsible for guarding the city lord's residence. Even if the dancing Phoenix City is massacred, it has nothing to do with me. My lord, please wait. Don't make things difficult for me. However, the guard didn't fall for this trick. He looked coldly at the anxious guard leader and said, Chiwen, lock down the city first and stabilize the law and order. I have something to do now. I will come out later to give everyone an explanation. The leader of the guards wanted to continue arguing and even wanted to barge in. However, he suddenly received a voice transmission. This made him a little confused. The voice transmission came from the new city lord. However, he did not understand what the new city lord was doing. What could be more important than what had just happened? Chapter 645. The new city lord's surname was Lei. He was an elder of the Lei family. He was standing on the 5th floor of the city lord's residence. It wasn't just him. All the top experts of Fengwu City were gathered here. They knew what had happened in the city, but they couldn't go out. They didn't dare to, because someone was sitting in front of them, a woman in a red robe. My lord, you are making things difficult for me. I don't know how to explain this to the people of the city. I don't know how to explain this to Longyang City and Ethereal City. The new city lord looked bitter. It wasn't just him. Even the experts in the hall looked uneasy. They knew the identity of this woman. They also knew that the Liu family had offended this lord. What they didn't understand was that with this lord's status and power, there were tens of thousands of ways to destroy the Liu family. But he chose the most direct way, to kill in front of everyone. The divine world had iron rules. Although these rules were nothing to true experts, the more powerful they were, the less likely they were to violate the iron rules of the divine world. However, the stronger a person was, the less likely they would be to violate the iron laws of the God realm. Firstly, it would be detrimental to their reputation. Secondly, it would affect the authority of the city's ruler. But today, this woman had done this for the first time, which put them in a difficult position. The woman in red lowered her head. She picked up a cup of tea from the woman in white. She took a sip and said calmly, You explain to Fengwu City yourself. I will explain to Longyang City and Ethereal City. I want to kill some people. Do you want to assassinate them? I did it in Ethereal City, let alone a small Fengwu City. Help me get rid of the rest of the Liu family disciples. If there is even one left, all of you can kill yourselves. All right, you may leave. Kill themselves? Everyone in the hall was shocked. Their backs were drenched in cold sweat. Leave? The new city lord looked at the people in the hall. He was confused. Wasn't this his place? This Lord Shurdai was asking him to leave? However, the Battle God Pavilion branch head of Fengwu City gave him a look, and he could only nod in acknowledgement. The few of them bowed respectfully to the lady and quickly retreated. Lei Hua, this is the Lord's order. You must not hesitate. Not to mention you. Even if your clan leader is here, he must be polite to her. Her strength is unfathomable. After walking out of the 5th floor, the Battle God Pavilion branch master, in a new city, Lord secretly sent a voice transmission. Then, they headed straight for the Battle God Pavilion. As for the Thunderfire City Lord, he was still rooted to the spot. He was very clear that this Pavilion Lord had very high authority in the Battle God Pavilion. He definitely knew many secrets that others were not aware of. He definitely had some basis for what he said. Lei Hua was well aware that the patriarch of their family, Lei Xiaotian, was an 8th grade war god. Why would Lei Xiaotian have to be polite to her? Didn't this mean that Lord Shurdai's strength was higher than that of an 8th grade war god? Gulp! The Thunderfire City Lord didn't dare to think about it anymore. He tried his best to control his footsteps as he walked down the stairs. There were still many things waiting for him to do in the city. He told himself to be calm at all. Sir, after everybody had left the hall, Lord Devour kept silent, sipping his tea. No one knew what he was thinking. The white-robed woman's expression fluctuated for a while before she finally mustered up the courage to speak. Agio, you've followed me from the Fire Dragon continent. We're close friends. If you have something to say, just say it. You don't need to beat around the bush. Lord Devour turned around, throwing an indifferent look at the white-robed woman. His voice became calm again, without a bit of emotion. Sir, can Xiaohei and Little Han be saved? The white-robed woman was Lord Jiu, the nine-tailed fox. After she had arrived in the divine world, she had broken through to the god general realm and reached the transformation realm. She had become an elegant woman. Of course, at this moment, her face was anxious. She didn't look elegant at all. From the soul-devouring manor, she and Lord Devour had teleported to the nether city of the Beacon Smoke Manor. Then, Lord Devour had taken her to the Phoenix Cloud Mountain Range. And now, they had arrived at the Dancing Phoenix City. Along the way, she was shocked that Lord Devour had concealed his strength. He was so strong that she didn't even dare to imagine it. She was shocked by what had happened to Yi Qinghan and Xiaohei. Lord Devour's overbearing, or even crazy deeds. However, she hadn't dared to ask much along the way. At this moment, she couldn't help but ask. They can be saved, but I can't. At least, I can't save them now. Lord Devour sighed. A gleam of regret flashed in his eyes. He held his cup and said nothing. Can be saved, but Lord Devour can't save them? Lord Jiu was even more frightened. After she had come to the divine world with Lord Devour, she knew how strong Lord Devour was. She guessed that Lord Devour was at least an 8th grade war god. Perhaps he was the legendary war god Invincible. She couldn't save them? Who could save them? What should we do? Will they die in there? Lord Jiu recalled that gentle and stubborn young man and that strange small beast. She couldn't help but feel anxious. Lord Devour shook his head, sighing. No choice. If they die like this, it's their fate. Sir, I have a question that I've thought about for a long time. I don't know if I should ask or not. Lord Jiu had a gleam of sadness in her eyes. She quieted down. After a long while, she lifted her head, looking at Lord Devour. Say it. Lord Devour turned around, looking at Lord Jiu meaningfully. His deep eyes seemed to see through her mind. I want to know why you're so strong, but you've forced little Han to come to the divine world alone. You've even asked him to bring Sir Xiaohei. Actually, Lord Jiu had many questions that she hadn't asked. For example, why had Lord Devour allowed the Divine Lord to dominate the Fire Dragon continent for several thousand years? The Fire Dragon territory's 1 billion divine stones weren't even a drop in the ocean in Lord Devour's eyes. Moreover, when they were in the Fire Dragon continent, he had witnessed Yi Qinghan risking his life time and time again. He had almost died several times. It made Lord Jiu feel that Lord Devour had arranged everything to put Yi Qinghan in danger. He could have done it easily, but Yi Qinghan had to bear it alone. Eventually, he and Xiaohei had fallen into the God Investiture Valley, and they didn't know whether they were still alive or not. What was her purpose for doing that? Was it just to watch Yi Qinghan dance like a monkey on the blade? Was it fun? But where was Xiaohei? She and Xiaohei had a close relationship. Did she have a heart to do that? You're right. Lord Devour gently put down the cup in his hand, saying faintly. Then he fell into silence as if he was recalling something. After a while, he opened his mouth faintly. Actually, Yi Qinghan had summoned Xiaohei, and then he had fallen into the god-slaying mountain. The arrival of the Golden Horn God clan, the insanity of God Master 2, and him falling into the evil stream in the divine world. Many things were arranged by me discreetly or indirectly. You can say, since Yi Qinghan had entered Xiaohei's valley in the summoning space, his entire life has been arranged by me. Of course, I didn't arrange for him to fall into the God Investiture Valley this time. It's my miscalculation. Thud. Lord Zhou instinctively wanted to pour tea for Lord Devour. However, when she heard Lord Devour's words, she shivered. The teapot and the cup in her hands fell to the ground, breaking into pieces. She goggled, looking at Lord Devour disbelievingly. After a long while, she swallowed her saliva, her lips trembling as she mumbled, "Lord, you're not kidding, right?" Chapter 646. Yi Qinghan's life was full of disasters. Since he had summoned Xiaohei, so many troubles and challenges had accompanied him. He was ambushed in the palace battle. The god-slaying mountain was on the verge of death several times. The Golden Horn God clan had attacked Song City, and the God Lord had used the lives of billions of people in the continent to threaten him. From the time he had summoned Xiaohei, when he was 15 years old, it had been just a dozen years. But he had experienced many things that no one else had ever experienced in their entire lives. It wasn't important. What was important was that each of them was related to him. Eventually, he had to stand up and use his thin shoulders to shoulder the burden. Luckily, he had succeeded. He stood on the peak of the fiery dragon continent. However, when he stood at the peak, he wasn't in a hurry to enjoy a beautiful and leisurely life. An even greater challenge had arrived. The incomparably heavy burden of the lives and deaths of billions of people in the Fire Dragon continent had once again pressed heavily on his body. He didn't have a choice. He had to go to the god domain alone with a saber and a war beast. It sounded unbelievable, but it couldn't be a coincidence, could it? Was it true that Yi Qinghan was destined to have a hard life? Destined to have endless trials and tribulations? Destined to be alone? And now, Lord Devour had given him a perfect explanation. Yi Qinghan had to endure all these years. It wasn't a coincidence. It was inevitable. This was because she had deliberately arranged many things in the dark, or rather, indirectly guided them. With Lord Devour's power, of course, it was easy for her to arrange these small things. However, Lord Zhu didn't understand why she had done that. Did she dislike Yi Qinghan and want to play with him to death? Or she was too bored, so she had planned all of this to see if Yi Qinghan could break through layers of obstacles and survive. Thus, she looked at Lord Devour skeptically, waiting for his explanation. The reason is simple. Lord Devour beamed a faint smile, stood up, and walked to the window. Looking at the bustling, dancing Phoenix City, he continued, "I want to make Yi Qinghan stronger, stronger, and stronger." If he wanted to become stronger, the only way was to constantly put pressure on him, to constantly go through hardships. Only under pressure would there be motivation. Only with a goal can he continue to struggle, to fight, and in the end, constantly break through himself. My lord, as far as I know, you have countless powerful helpers or subordinates. Lord Mo Xiao Xiao, the second city lord, and several elders of soul-devouring city are estimated to have the strength of 6th grade or 7th grade war gods. You still cultivate little Han in such a way. I wonder what profound meaning you have. Lord Zhou was still skeptical. Lord Devour was so strong, and after he had followed him to the god world, he found that he had so many strong subordinates. Even if Yi Qinghan grew stronger, wasn't he just another subordinate? Then what was the purpose of her spending so much effort to cultivate Yi Qinghan? Yi Qinghan was just a mortal. Although his aptitude was considered top-notch in the Flame Dragon continent, there was still a certain gap between him and some of the geniuses in the god world. Moreover, if she wanted to cultivate Yi Ching Han into a peak expert, she didn't know how much time, money, and material resources she had to spend, and it wasn't certain that she would succeed. After all, a martial artist's cultivation depended on himself and the comprehension of principle. Others couldn't help much. The god world was extremely dangerous. No one could guarantee that Yi Ching Han could cultivate safely. Even Lord Devour had miscalculated. Yi Ching Han and Xiao He were trapped in the sealed God Valley, and it was unknown whether they were still alive or not. Lord Devour was a mansion lord, one of the top few martial artists in the god world. There shouldn't be anything that could trouble her, right? Then, why did she cultivate Yi Ching Han? Was it because he had a good relationship with Xiao He? Lord Devour sighed slightly. He turned around and saw a faint trace of helplessness in the nine-tailed fox's eyes. I have my reasons for doing this. Of course, it's not because I'm bored. Gio, actually, there are many things in this world that you don't know. For example, a ninth-grade war god isn't really invincible. I've been hiding in the Flame Dragon continent all year round not because I miss my hometown, but because I'm avoiding my enemies. I really have a favorable impression of Yi Ching Han, but not because of Xiao He. It's because he's different in one way, and no genius in the god world can compare with him. The nine-tailed fox, Gio, couldn't be elegant anymore. It even became complicated. Listening to what Lord Devour said, it seemed that a ninth-grade war god wasn't a legend, but a real existence. Moreover, there was a higher level above the ninth-grade war god. However, she didn't understand what Lord Devour said after that. Wasn't Lord Devour in the god world now? Why did he say that he was hiding in the Flame Dragon continent all year round? Or because he was avoiding his enemies? Moreover, was the Flame Dragon continent her hometown? Moreover, although Yi Ching Han had many outstanding qualities, he couldn't be so outstanding that any genius in the god world couldn't compare with him, right? Lord, can you explain it more clearly? For example, Little Han, what's different about him? Following Lord Devour's explanation, the nine-tailed fox felt more and more confused. However, she knew the rules and didn't dare to ask too many questions. Lord Devour would tell her what he could, so she only asked about Yi Ching Han. A strange light flashed in Lord Devour's eyes, and he said with absolute certainty, his difference lies in his soul. His soul is different from everyone else in this world. I even suspect that he isn't from this world, or that his soul doesn't belong to this world. Therefore, I feel that he might be able to break through to an unprecedented height and help me resist my enemy. That's why I constantly nurtured him, racked my brains, and spared no effort to nurture him. Lord Zhou's body trembled. She forced herself to be calm, but at this moment, she couldn't stay calm anymore. Her face was filled with astonishment. If Yi Ching Han were here and heard Lord Devour's words, he would definitely jump up in fright. Lord, you're not joking again, are you? Lord Zhou was bewildered for a long time, and then she blurted out nonsense again. She knew that she was talking nonsense, but Lord Devour's words shocked her so much that she blurted it out subconsciously. Not from this world. Could it be that there was another world besides this one? Reaching an unprecedented height? Was it the height above the ninth-grade war god that she mentioned? The restriction I set on Xiao He in the Misty Forest is extremely powerful. Even if Yi Ching Han has the soul ring, he can't go through the *T bloodline awakening ceremony of the Yi family to enter the valley where Xiao He lives. The only explanation is that his soul is very special. Then I checked his soul, and it's indeed different from the soul structure of the people in this world. That's why I arranged so many things to see how far he could go. It turns out that he didn't disappoint me. Of course, if he can come out of the Apotheosis Valley this time, I'll be even more sure of it. Lord Devour smiled, and his eyes lit up. It was the light of expectation. Lord, do you mean that Little Han can come out of the Apotheosis Valley by himself? Lord Zhu swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Today, Lord Devour had given him too many shocks. She couldn't help but hesitate about many of Lord Devour's words. She told herself that Lord Devour wouldn't lie to her, and she couldn't doubt anything that Lord Devour said. But this time, she was still hesitant. She had heard many legends that the Apotheosis Valley was a land of death. Several seventh-grade war gods had already gone in, but none of them had come out yet. Yi Qinghan was just an immortal general realm warrior. Could he come out? Chapter 647. Outsiders can't bring people out of Seal God Valley, but the people inside have 3 ways to get out. However, these 3 ways are incomparably difficult and almost impossible to achieve. If Yi Qinghan can really get out, then his achievements will be limitless. Lord Devour's eyes looked at the far north through the window, as if he could see the bottomless pit through the endless mountains. Which 3 ways? Nine-tailed Fox's eyes brightened, asking hurriedly. Lord Devour contemplated for a while, then said faintly, "The first way is to cultivate to the 9th grade war god realm. The second way is to fuse with a special high-level space Upanishad. However, no one has ever succeeded in fusing with such a high-level Upanishad. The third way? I don't want to talk about the third way. No one has succeeded in the third way. Not to mention success. It's impossible in theory. Yi Qinghan's only hope is the second way, because he cultivates the space law. And I think he can do it." Oh, Nine-tailed Fox's bright eyes dimmed. She wanted to ask again, "Lord, are you kidding?" However, she knew that she had talked too much today. If she said more, Lord Devour would be angry. In Nine-tailed Fox's eyes, none of the 3 ways were safe. If anyone could break through to the 9th grade war god realm, it wouldn't be a legend anymore. For the second way, although Yi Qinghan cultivated the space law, there were many experts cultivating it in the divine world. If no one could fuse with it, how could Yi Qinghan succeed? As for the third way, if Lord Devour said it was impossible, it was impossible. All right, Mo Xiaoxiao's business is done. Let's go. Lord Devour waved his hand, and the 2 of them disappeared from the 5th floor of the city master mansion. When Nine-tailed Fox opened her eyes, she found herself in a grand hall, which seemed to be in the sky. No, this is the celestial phoenix of the war god pavilion. Nine-tailed Fox got it immediately because she saw Mo Xiaoxiao kneeling on one knee and the 2 massive wings outside the transparent shield. "Get up. Are you done?" Lord Devour glanced at Mo Xiaoxiao, then sat down. Nine-tailed Fox hurried to take out a cup of tea from her spatial ring, pouring it for her. The war gods of the Liu family, who were out on missions, have all been eliminated. All the experts above the God King level of the Liu family have been killed. Mo Xiaoxiao nodded and said respectfully, "Now, go to Ethereal City and buy the Flame Dragon plane in Yi Qinghan's name. After that, you can go to the City Lord's mansion and beg for forgiveness. I will arrange for someone to send you to the first-class Evil Ean stream. You can come out only when you reach the strength of an 8th grade war god. At that time, you can go to the soul-devouring city to find me." Lord Devour's words made Nine-tailed Fox restless again. She said that she could arrange people from the floating city. She was only one of the 108 manor lords of the ethereal manor. How could she affect the ethereal city? "Yes, my lord, I'll take my leave first." Mo Xiaoxiao didn't hesitate at all when she heard Lord Devour's words. She bowed to him again. She had been following Lord Devour since she was a nameless heaven god realm warrior. For hundreds of thousands of years, Lord Devour had created her, and she had done many things for Lord Devour. She was used to carrying out Lord Devour's orders without any doubt. "Let's go." Lord Devour nodded faintly. He glanced at Nine-tailed Fox, and the 2 of them teleported again. When they reappeared, they were in the teleportation formation of the Dancing Phoenix City. This time, Lord Devour didn't ask anyone to activate the teleportation formation. Instead, he shot out several black, triangular stones. The teleportation formation glowed with 7-colored light, and the 2 of them disappeared into the teleportation formation. When the teleportation formation glowed, a team of warriors who were guarding the teleportation formation screamed with pale faces. It wasn't that they didn't see the 2 of them, but they realized that they couldn't move at all. Phoenix Aurora Mountainous Range, the place where the god bandits of the ethereal manor were most rampant, was extremely quiet at this moment. Or rather, it was deathly silent. In the endless mountains, there wasn't a single demonic beast or human figure. There was only the howling cold wind and the faint smell of blood and corpses in the cold wind. It wasn't that there weren't any martial artists who came to the Phoenix Aurora mountainous range or passed by. It was just that when they saw the corpses all over the mountain, they were all frightened. They didn't know what had happened. They only knew that this place made them afraid and terrified. If the mountain was filled with god bandits, perhaps they wouldn't be so afraid. However, the mountain was filled with corpses. That was terrifying. Hence, no one dared to go near this place, at least not for the time being. Buzz! However, at this moment, two figures suddenly appeared in the mountain range. What's more, they appeared in the center of the mountain range. Beside that bottomless pit, TSK, TSK, TSK. The deep pit emitted a strong suction force from time to time. However, the two of them stood firmly at the side of the deep pit. Their figures didn't move at all. The two of them looked at the deep pit that looked like the mouth of a huge beast in silence. Yi Qinghan, I know you can't hear what I'm saying. However, I want to tell you this. Whether or not you can walk out of the conferred God Valley, I will protect the Fire Dragon Continent for you. I will take care of your kin and your woman. I will ensure that your Yi family will prosper for generations to come. Of course, if you can come out, I will bestow you a great fortune. This is my sure die's promise to you. After a long time, one of them spoke. His voice was filled with loneliness and faint anticipation. The two of them stood at the side of the deep pit for a long time before they instant shifted and left. Tens of thousands of kilometers underground, a mountain god pangolin was moving forward rapidly. After experiencing the incident at the Phoenix Cloud mountain range, Li Shuer wasn't interested in refining the snow god whip anymore. She didn't let the martial artists go into fight with her anymore. The accompanying war immortals rejoiced, but they didn't feel too happy. Everyone hid in their own rooms to cultivate or discuss some matters quietly. The huge hall was empty. At this time, a door suddenly opened. An icy cold woman walked out. The woman held some notes in her hands. Her snow-white face had a trace of worry. Yi Yao Rao had been in seclusion for a while. However, she suddenly woke up and found that Yi Qinghan wasn't there. Xiao He wasn't there either. Although there were some notes on them, it was written that he went to Li Shuer's cultivation room to cultivate for a period of time. Moreover, she had asked Li Bai. Li Bai also told her that Yi Qinghan was in seclusion in the cultivation room. Although Guyang was empty, Yi Qinghan was also in seclusion. However, she still felt an indescribable palpitation and a trace of indescribable fear. She knocked on a door. The room door opened. Kong Luo and Guyang looked at Yi Yao Rao in shock. Looking at her icy cold eyes, the two of them subconsciously avoided her gaze. Then, they looked at each other and woke up. The two of them stood up. Kong Luo smiled at Yi Yao Rao and said, "Ice War Immortal. What's the matter? Can't you invite me in to sit?" Yi Yao Rao smiled. Although her smile was cold, it had an intoxicating charm. "Of course you can. Come in." Kong Luo was startled. He scratched his head awkwardly and hurriedly stepped aside. He walked to the table at the side and poured himself some tea. Yi Yao Rao walked in and suddenly pressed a mechanism on the wall. The barrier of the room opened. She walked straight over and sat on a chair. Then, she looked at the two of them and said in a serious tone, "Cold Night War Immortal, where are you now?" The squad leader handed over a set of gray battle armor that was exactly the same as his. After Yi Qinghan put it on, he took a look. Sure enough, there were no stars on the left side of his chest. There were only 4 small numbers, 9527. Letting little black hide in his sleeve, he began to move forward with the team. The team silently moved through the small hill. No one said a word, and their speed was very slow. Looking at the situation, this team of warriors seemed to be walking on instinct, without using any divine power. Although Yi Qinghan wanted to ask about this place, he did not receive any reply when he transmitted his voice to the warrior in front. He could only follow them silently, without using divine power, and observe carefully. Oh, there's another team of warriors in front? The armor is purple. Could it not be from the Rain Emperor tribe? After walking for a while, Yi Qinghan saw a team of warriors walking out from behind the hill, heading straight in his direction. Those are the people from the Thunder Emperor tribe. Killing is forbidden here. 9527. Don't do anything. Just as Yi Qinghan was getting nervous, the small team leader suddenly transmitted his voice. The small team continued moving forward. Just as the two teams were about to get close, Yi Qinghan suddenly felt that someone in the other team was staring at him. He looked over alertly and found a pair of familiar eyes. After being stunned for a while, he suddenly woke up. This person was actually the wandering divine king who had been sucked into the sealed God Valley a step earlier than him. The wandering divine king was obviously discovered by the warriors of the Thunder Emperor tribe first and joined the Thunder Emperor tribe. At this moment, his eyes were staring coldly at Yi Qinghan. The hatred in his eyes was extremely obvious. Clearly, he hated Yi Qinghan for forcing him into this godforsaken place. The two of them did not speak and did not dare to provoke each other. They just looked at each other coldly, and the two teams crossed each other and left. The warriors of the two teams acted as if the other was a vacuum. They did not even look at each other and went on their own. After walking in this place for a few days, the team had 3 new members. One was at the God King realm, and the other 2 were at the peak of the God General realm. These people had clearly come to this place not long ago. Their eyes were filled with panic and fear, and they kept looking around. The 4 of them communicated for a while and discovered that the 4 of them had accidentally been sucked into the sealed God Valley during the Phoenix Cloud Mountain Range's well eruption. Finally, they came to this strange place. The 4 of them did not know anything about this place. After talking for a long time, they did not obtain any useful information. However, the 4 of them discussed for a while and formed a temporary alliance. They would work together to find a way to survive in this unknown place, and then think of a way to leave. After a few more days, the team did not encounter any new warriors. Instead, they encountered countless teams. There were teams from the Rain Emperor tribe who were wearing the same gray battle armor as them, and there were also teams from the Thunder Emperor tribe who were wearing purple battle armor. There were also teams in white battle armor and cyan battle armor. According to the team leader's explanation, they were from the Cloud Emperor tribe and the Wind Emperor tribe respectively. After half a month, the team finally left this graveyard and walked outside. There were still no flowers, no rivers, no lakes, and not a single person outside. Similarly, there was no divine aura or essence energy. There was only black soil that stretched as far as the eye could see. The team advanced silently on the black soil. Their speed was still incomparably slow. The 4 of them saw that the warriors in front of them did not use divine power and were still walking on instinct. Although it was very strange, they did not ask and could only follow obediently. After walking for a few more days, Yi Qinghan felt that something was wrong. Not only him, but even the 3 warriors felt that something was wrong. The 4 of them now understood why this team of warriors did not use divine power to walk. Because after walking for so long, they still did not find a trace of divine aura. There was no divine aura here to replenish their divine power. They could only continue to use it, but it could not be replenished. If they used divine power to walk, they would eventually use up their divine power and become ordinary people. And most importantly, they suddenly felt hungry. How many years had it been? They did not feel this way anymore. Ever since Yi Qinghan cultivated to the Emperor realm, he could absorb the essence energy between heaven and earth and convert a portion of it into energy that his body needed. Thus, he did not need to drink food. From then on, he no longer felt hungry. Now there was no vitality or divine aura in this godforsaken place. It had been more than half a month. Although they were experts from the god realm and their bodies were abnormally strong, they also began to feel hungry. The four of them resisted the hunger in their stomachs and began to think of ways to convert the divine power in their bodies into divine power. However, they could not convert it no matter what. For a moment, the four of them panicked. If this went on, would they starve to death? The team leader, who was walking slowly in front, suddenly stopped in his tracks. Then, he took out 4 fruits that emitted an alluring light from his ring and distributed them to the 4 of them. He said calmly, "In the Forgotten Land, everyone will feel hungry. Without this holy fruit, even an Emperor God expert will eventually starve to death. This fruit can support you for half a year. This is a treatment that only warriors who have just joined the tribe can receive. In the future, if you want to obtain the holy fruit, you will have to obtain the holy fruit by killing people with merit points. Otherwise, you will die." Chapter 650. Holy Fruit? Yi Qinghan looked at the fruit in his hand that had an uncouth name, but was exceptionally beautiful. He looked around at the bleak and lifeless scenery and felt a little disappointed. A dignified god realm warrior had a lifespan of tens of millions of years and was almost equivalent to a powerhouse with an immortal body. But now, he had fallen to the point where he would starve to death if he didn't eat this holy fruit. It seemed that the squad leader was right. This was indeed a cursed land, a forgotten land. The fruit was like a celestial peach from his previous life. It exuded an alluring fragrance and a dazzling radiance, giving off a strong sense of appetite. Yi Qinghan sighed and did not hesitate. He used his hands to split the fruit in half, and the fragrance filled the air. He threw one half into his mouth and chewed it carefully, while handing the other half to Xiaohei, who had come out of his sleeve. Xiaohei did not stand on ceremony and directly took the fruit, swallowing it in a few bites. The holy fruit was indeed a holy fruit. It was fragrant as soon as it entered his mouth and entered his stomach. His body began to heat up, and a strong, warm current began to flow through his body. Not only did his hunger disappear, even his divine power reached its peak state and seemed to have increased a little. Yi Qinghan even felt that his soul sea had expanded a little. The holy fruit was indeed worthy of its name. "Boss, this fruit is delicious. I feel that my soul and divine power are growing after eating it." Xiaohei's voice transmission confirmed this. Yi Qinghan smiled and rubbed Xiaohei's head. He transmitted back, "If you like it, boss will think of a way to get more fruits for you to eat in the future." Letting Xiaohei return to his sleeve, Yi Qinghan raised his head and saw a small group of warriors looking at him. Apart from the 3 newcomers, the rest of the gray-armored warriors all had the same look in their eyes. They were all conveying the same message: that was an idiot. "Little brother Yi, why did you give half of the fruit to your spiritual pet? This fruit is so important, and it seems to be very difficult to obtain. Aren't you?" "That's right, little brother Yi. In this place, you'd better abandon your spiritual pet. He'll drag you down." Although the 4 of them didn't have a heart-to-heart in the past half a month, they all felt an inexplicable sense of closeness because they had fallen into the same predicament at the same time. It was as if they were all in the same boat. Therefore, Yi Qinghan didn't hide his real name, and the 3 of them didn't hide their concern either. In their eyes, they were just a few beggars who couldn't even fill their stomachs. It was already a problem for them to fill their stomachs, but Yi Qinghan had to bring a dog along. "Thank you for your concern, brothers. I know what I'm doing. Let's go. The lords are on their way." Yi Qinghan smiled and did not explain further. He felt that it was difficult to express his feelings for Xiaohei with words. Just like when he was sucked into the conferred God Valley, Xiaohei did not hesitate to fly over. Just like just now, he had given Xiaohei half of the life-saving fruit without a second thought, and Xiaohei had taken it and eaten it as if it was a matter of course. The feelings between the two had already fused into their blood, and they were closer than family. This was because family was only connected by flesh and blood, but they were connected by soul. After eating the holy fruit, Everyone no longer felt hungry. However, they also understood one thing. In this place, they had to conserve all the energy in their bodies at all times. Therefore, the four of them became the same as the small group of martial artists in front of them. They didn't speak, didn't make any useless movements, didn't circulate their divine power, and didn't even move their faces when they looked around. They only moved their eyeballs, as if they had become the living dead. Several days later, the scenery in front of everyone finally changed. A huge mountain appeared in front of them. The mountain was like a standard cone. There was actually a palace at the very top. Although this palace was completely made of black soil, it was still very grand and imposing. Below the palace was like a terraced field, layer after layer. All of them were dark caves. The higher they went, the fewer caves there were, and the larger they were. At the foot of the mountain, it was densely packed with dark caves. All of the caves added up to about 100,000. Under the dim sky, they were like pairs of green wolf eyes in the dark night, so eye-catching. Although they could see this huge mountain from afar, it took them a full hour to reach the foot of the mountain. The gray-armored team leader waved his hand, and the several gray-armored martial artists behind him silently dispersed and left. Only then did he say to the others, "This is the Rain Emperor tribe, and this mountain is called the Rain Emperor Mountain. 9527, 9528, 9529, 9530. Your residences are on the lowest level, and there are numbers on the cave entrance. Remember, without orders, you can only move around on the first level. If you dare to enter the second level, you will die without a doubt. There are a few stone tablets over there that have a detailed introduction of the Forgotten Land, as well as the iron rules of the Rain Emperor tribe. You can take a closer look." After saying that, the team leader did not waste any more time and walked towards a stairway that led straight up the mountain. Finally, he reached the second level, and his figure suddenly disappeared. The Rain Emperor Mountain was very tall and very steep. At first, the four of them could clearly see that the mountain was divided into 5 levels, but now that they were standing at the foot of the mountain, they could only see the second level. They could not see the 3rd, 4th, and 5th levels, as well as the palace at the top of the mountain. Moreover, their divine sense seemed to be restricted, and they could not sense the situation on the second level at all. It seemed that there were restrictions on the second level. Huh? No. The four of them had just subconsciously used their divine sense, and found that they could not detect the second level at all. However, they had an unexpected discovery. This Rain Emperor Mountain had divine chi, although it was very thin, so thin that it was completely negligible. At least it was the only place that they had found divine chi since they had been in the Forgotten Land for so long. The four of them once again used their divine sense to scan the first level. They could clearly feel that there were tens of thousands of small caves on the first level, and at least half of them were occupied. However, their arrival not only did not attract any attention, but not even a single person used their divine sense to scan the first level. This Rain Emperor Mountain should have tens of thousands of warriors, but from Yi Qinghan's point of view, it seemed that there were tens of thousands of living dead living here. The four of them could not hold back their confusion, and quickly walked towards the mountain. They walked straight towards the large stone tablets at the entrance of the mountain. No, it should be the large clay tablets. There were 3 clay tablets. The first one introduced the Forgotten Land in detail, the second one introduced the iron rules of the Rain Emperor tribe, and the third one introduced some things in the Forgotten Land. The four of them carefully read the words on the 3 stone tablets several times, and their faces became more and more gloomy, and darker and darker than the black soil that could be seen everywhere. Mother asterisk her. Yi Qinghan let out a long breath, and after a long while, he said 4 words. The Divine King and the other 2 also sighed deeply, and said 4 words in unison. Mother asterisk her. Chapter 651. Yi Qinghan had always been an optimistic person, even when he was trapped in the God-slaying mountain, forced to the Purple Island by the Divine Master, and sent to the stream of Een spirits because of Nyohuahua. He had never been pessimistic or hopeless, but this time, He felt a deep sense of helplessness from the depths of his soul, and a feeling called despair welled up in his heart. The Forgotten Land was indeed the inner part of the apotheosis of the gods. There was no sunlight, no flowers, no water, no animals, and no vitality. This was a forgotten place, a cursed place. This was a sealed space. The eternal demonic sun in the sky was not a demonic sun, but the deep hole in the center of the Phoenix Cloud Mountains. That was the entrance to the apotheosis of the gods, and also the only exit. However, this exit, for millions of years, no one had ever walked out, never. There were 5 tribes in the Forgotten Land. Other than the Thunder Emperor, Cloud Emperor, Wind Emperor, and Rain Emperor that Yi Ching Han had seen before, there was also a demonic beast tribe. Each of the 5 tribes occupied 5 mountains, and each tribe had a king whose strength was comparable to a 7th-grade war god. These 5 kings had entered the Forgotten Land one after another, and the one who had been here for the longest time had already been here for millions of years. They all had powerful divine abilities, and they had tried countless times to approach the demonic sun in the sky, but none of them had ever succeeded. Finally, they concluded that unless one had the strength of a 9th-grade war god, no one could walk out. Yi Ching Han had heard of the legend of the invincible war god, and Elder Lu had also told him about the legend of the invincible god emperor, an invincible existence who had fused 5 fundamental mysteries and comprehended the super mysteries. However, a legend was a legend, and Yi Ching Han had never heard of an expert who had reached this realm in the immortal realm. Yi Ching Han had never thought of himself as useless. He had cultivated to the divine general realm in just a few decades, and he was very satisfied with his power of understanding. However, he had never been arrogant enough to think that he could reach that realm, and he did not even have much confidence in breaking through to the divine king realm. Therefore, his heart began to sink. Not only him, the other 3 people's hearts and faces also sank. The light in their eyes also became very dim. Just like the group of martial artists just now lifeless, like the living dead, the 4 of them looked at each other and didn't say anything. They began to walk forward numbly. Finally, after making a big circle, they found their own small cave. The 4 of them glanced at each other again and sighed lightly. Then they walked into their own caves and started to digest the information on the clay tablets. Or it could be said that they started to digest the shock and terror in their hearts. The cave wasn't big and was rather dry. There was nothing inside, only black soil. Yi Ching Han sat down on the ground in a daze. He rubbed his face in a messy manner. Finally, he held his face and stared blankly outside. "Boss, don't be discouraged. Who knows, my aunt might be able to save us if she finds out." Of course, Xiaohei knew what Yi Ching Han was thinking. He jumped out of Yi Ching Han's sleeve and stood in front of Yi Ching Han. His dark eyes were full of concern. If one didn't look at his face and only saw his eyes, one would think that he was a human. Lord Devour? Yi Ching Han's eyes were slightly burning. Yes, Lord Devour was a powerful existence that could defeat an 8th-grade war god. If she was really a legendary 9th-grade war god, then perhaps he and Xiaohei could be saved. And the possibility was very high. Yes, I can't be dispirited or pessimistic. As long as there is hope, I can't give up. Yi Ching Han rubbed his face again, telling himself to stay calm. If a person wanted to be strong, the first thing to do was to have a strong heart. If a person's heart was dead, then no matter how he was saved, there was nothing he could do to save him. Yi Ching Han took a few deep breaths and rubbed the space between his eyebrows, trying to calm himself down. Holding Xiaohei in his arms, he began to analyze. The Forgotten Land was very strange. There was no divine aura to replenish. The only places with divine energy were the 5 mountains of the 5 tribes. However, the divine aura on the 5 mountains was still extremely thin. For example, in the cave where Yi Ching Han was staying, the divine aura here was nearly 10,000 times thinner than in the heavenly realm. In other words, cultivating for 2 hours in the heavenly realm could replenish 1 month's energy. However, in this place, it would take 10,000 hours. Yi Ching Han sat cross-legged, closed his eyes, and began to circulate his divine energy to absorb the nearby divine aura. After meditating for an hour, he realized that he had only absorbed a little bit of divine energy. Moreover, meditating and cultivating would also consume the divine power and energy within the body. Yi Qing'an calculated for a moment and decisively gave up on cultivating. God damn it, this little bit of divine energy is not enough. The more I cultivate, the faster it will be consumed. It seems that if I want to survive here, I still need to obtain the holy fruit. The divine energy and energy obtained from cultivating had not been consumed much. If he continued to meditate, he would die even faster. If he continued like this, he would starve to death. The only way was to obtain the holy fruit. The method of obtaining the holy fruit was not explained in detail on the clay tablet. It was only a brief description. However, from the few lines, Yi Qing'an could sense that obtaining the holy fruit would be extremely difficult. In order to obtain the holy fruit, one not only had to kill people, but they also had to kill demonic beasts. In the Forgotten Lands, there were 10 places where the holy fruit grew. The fruits ripened once every 3 months. However, only a few hundred ripened each time. Each of the 5 great tribes had tens of thousands of people, and there were constantly cultivators who were accidentally sucked in from the outside. The more people there were, the less porridge there was, so the 5 great monarchs set a rule. Counterattack! 10 days before the holy fruit ripened, each tribe would send out 10 teams of 100 people to fight together. In the end, when only one tribe's cultivators were left, the holy fruit would belong to that tribe. This counterattack system was very cruel, and thousands of people would die every time. However, Yi Qing'an knew very well that this system was actually secretly consuming the population of the Forgotten Lands. After all, people were constantly falling into this place, and the population was increasing. If this continued, the Forgotten Lands would also erupt into a war. People were going to die anyway, and this kind of controlled death would not cause chaos. We can only participate in the counterattack. Xiao He and I each have half a holy fruit, which can barely support us for 3 months. If we don't get the holy fruit in 3 months, perhaps before Lord Devour comes to save us, the 2 of us will become weaker and weaker, and finally starve to death. Yi Qing'an revealed a trace of bitterness at the corner of his mouth. He and Xiao He needed to consume double the holy fruit. No wonder he gave half of the holy fruit to Xiao He on the way, and that group of cultivators looked at him strangely. Xiao He, go into the beast space. Don't come out until the counterattack arrives. We have to try our best to save the energy in our bodies. Before we get enough holy fruit, don't communicate too much in the future. Yi Qing'an finally understood why the 20,000 warriors on the first floor were like the living dead. Because they didn't dare to move or speak. The only thing they could do was to meditate. Of course, they didn't dare to cultivate divine power while meditating. They could only comprehend the principle. Only in this way could he minimize the amount of divine power and energy consumed in his body and live a little longer. Recalling Xiao He back into the beast space, Yi Qing'an closed his eyes and began to comprehend the principle, becoming one of the tens of thousands of living dead. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.